be answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. If you guys are watching the live replay and you would like your own reading, so natal chart reading, progressed natal chart reading, synastry reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. You guys can go on my website underneath the readings tab, select which reading you guys would like, an email window should pop up. Send me an email and we will go from there. Hey everyone, how you guys doing? Hey Concern, hey Jane Doe, yay, I'm glad that you love these so much. I love doing them as well. Let me know what kinds of questions you guys have today. What should we talk about? What is new? What's the 411? Welcome, welcome, welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal chart. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. What should we talk about today? Hey Batul, oh my gosh, how are you doing? What's new, Batul? Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal chart. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I will be going in order. Hey, Inspired Soul. You said, what is Mars in the A house about? So is this in your own natal chart, Mars in the A house? Basically, you can kind of look at Mars in the A house as like unlimited drive, essentially. Okay, you're going to be using your sexual energy to bring through whatever it is that you are trying to bring through, okay? Obviously, that being said, it's if you don't waste that energy. So you basically incarnate having a lot of sexual energy for manifestation. That's basically what the Mars in the A house is all about. Now, the thing is, when you have a lot of this energy, just the way that this earth plane is, okay, just from my own observations, it is a plane of, yes, duality, but also a lot of darkness down here. So when you have a lot of manifestation potential or you have a lot of light, you tend to get energetically targeted from a young age. So with that being said, having Mars in the A house, you may have experienced, let's say, certain traumas around the sacral chakra, for example, that could be preventing you from manifesting and from using your sexual energy in that divine, purest form, okay? Even hypersexuality, for example, is also a trauma response, in my own opinion. I'm not a psychologist, just from what I've observed. So you'll see that a lot of the time with people who have some sort of trauma in the sacral, they might go into that extreme as well, right? But you're still wasting, in that case, your sexual energy, which is your life force energy, which is your creative energy. So when you have Mars in the 8th, you incarnate with a lot of sexual energy to create something down here is basically what that is, okay? To use all of this life force to create for yourself is really, really what that is. Hey. Oh, Batul, so nice to know. Let me know if you would like your own reading or if you have any questions about certain placements in your natal chart. I can answer them here on the live today. Hey, Katie. Hey, Confidence is a catch. I love that name. How are you guys doing? You said, how would you pinpoint divorce and second marriage in a natal chart? Okay, if you get married before your Saturn return, in terms of if you have Saturn in the 7th house, you could go through a divorce potentially. I've even heard Aries moons, sometimes they might be impulsive and they might have a divorce because they might get married young, for example. But I've also been thinking, this is just my own opinion, something I've been thinking about, people who get married in general before their Saturn in the 7th house transit, they do have the potential of going through divorce anyways, because after Saturn in the 7th, you go into Saturn in the 8th, which could be the separation of assets. So it depends from person to person. But yes, so these are some things that can take place. Let's say you have Saturn in the 7th house as your natal placement, and then you got married before your Saturn return. Let's say you have your Saturn return when you have Saturn in the 7th, that's around age 27 to 30 approximately, okay, depending on your chart. Sometimes it's 28 to 31, so it depends like when it's taking place, the transit. But you know, let's say you got married before your Saturn return, you could go through a separation or a divorce, because that Saturn in the 8th house transit could be a separation of assets. But then I was thinking too, and I was like, it doesn't just have to be people who have Saturn in the 7th house. It could literally be anyone who has their transit like taking place, like the Saturn transiting the 8th house if they were married. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to mean this. It doesn't mean you're going to go through a divorce. I'm sure there's other things taking place in the transits and in the chart as well that could balance that energy. But it's this. And then also for people who have Capricorn in the 7th house, okay, it could be this as well, okay, Capricorn in the 7th, so that's Cancer risings. Probably best to wait for marriage until after your Saturn return, okay? What would you like to know, Batul? Do you have any specific placements that you would like to know about? Hey, Mary, how are you doing? What's new? Hey, Esther, how are you guys doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. You said, when sun sextile moon, Capricorn, sun, Pisces moon. Are you asking what does it mean if the sun sextiles the moon? You're welcome. You You said Jupiter sextile moon as well. Your Jupiter and sun are conjunct. Are you saying sun sextile the moon? Let me know. Okay, so your sun is sextiling the moon, your Capricorn sun, and then you have a Pisces moon. I mean, the sextiles are nice because it's like a complementary energy, okay? Sextiles and trines, it's kind of like it doesn't overpower the energy, and then it's going to help ground that Pisces moon for you, okay? Because Pisces moon can go off into the ethers. They can go off into the dreaming, into the dream worlds, into the other worlds. Do you know what I mean? So it's nice because you have Capricorn sun. It's going to be grounding that energy for you. And then you said Jupiter is sextiling the moon as well. So it's nice. Jupiter sextiling the moon. Is Jupiter also in Capricorn for you? You said Jupiter and sun are conjunct. It's nice. It's going to be grounding that Pisces moon energy for you. You're welcome. Okay, Batul, if you want, I can look at your whole natal chart if you want to send me an email, or if you have a specific placement you want to know about. I don't do predictive readings, but if you guys are ever curious, like let's say, you know, if you have sun in the 12th house, sometimes these people move away from where they are born. If you have North Node in the 4th house, sometimes these people also move countries, like they go away from their place of birth, or they might be more successful away from their place of birth. So it depends. If you wanted, you know, a little bit more specific information, I could definitely look into that for you in terms of your natal chart. If you have a question in terms of a specific placement and you want to know about that, let me know as well. You're welcome. Welcome to the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'm so glad that you're here too, Esther. I'm glad that you caught the live. You said regarding 2025 astrology, what upcoming transit should we be weary or aware about? Honestly, next year is going to be really intense. Okay, well, it's always intense, so I don't know what to say. Okay, I don't do predictive astrology, but in terms of next year, first of all, it's a 9-year. Okay, so it's a lot of endings. A lot of things are going to be wrapped up next year. Okay, so this year was karma, so a lot of things came to the surface. Next year is going to be a lot of endings for a lot of people. Okay, because it is a 9-year. First of all, that. Now, the next thing is all of the outer planets are moving and changing signs. So that's going to be really like intense in terms of just like change, right? It depends how well you deal with change, right? If you're someone who is used to change, or let's say you're like a 5 life path, or maybe you have Scorpio energy, something of the sort, then you kind of go with the flow of the energy, right? But if change is something that you're not used to, well, then it might feel a little bit intense for you. So that's basically the energy for next year. It's going to be intense in this way because there's going to be a lot of things that are changing, okay? In terms of the generational planets all changing signs at one point and another, okay, next year. And on top of that, it's a 9 years. So like a lot of things are going to come to an end, right? A close, right? Basically, like a lot of people might now, like if you're a little bit more intuitive, okay, or you're a little bit more empathic and you're like tapping into the energies, you might feel like right now like things are kind of being like wrapped up energetically, or it's like coming to an end, or a cycle's coming to a close. Because next year, right, obviously not as soon as the clock strikes 12, because all of these transits are going to be throughout the year, but it's like we're moving, like we're changing directions is basically what that is as a collective, right? So that's kind of what's going to be happening from next year onwards. You're welcome. Hey everyone, how are you guys doing? Hey Jane, you said, what could I say about Neptune, Uranus, Sun, and Mercury in Aquarius in the A house? It's a really interesting placement, challenging. You want to know my view on it. Okay, is Aquarius occupying your A house overall? Because it's interesting. There's like an energy of detachment with all of that, but also merging with the A house as well. What I would say, if you do have Aquarius occupying the A house overall, you're welcome. If you do have A house, like Aquarius overall, it's like then you have to kind of integrate the shadows of Aquarius to kind of bloom and blossom in that energy. But regardless, when you have Aquarius placements taking place in your chart, well, first of all, the Uranus and Neptune, that's generational, right? So that's going to be the subset of your generation that's bringing through change and innovation in this particular area, okay? And then yourself included, because you're also part of the subset of the generation. But then Sun and Mercury, for example, I'm curious to know if they are conjunct. Let me know. Hey everyone, welcome. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. But yes, so when you have Aquarius in your natal chart, it's a few things here, okay? First of all, you're ahead of your time. Traditionally in astrology, they used to say 10 to 15 years ahead of the time, but these days the frequency of the planet is higher. So it could be, let's say 2 months. It could be 2 years ahead of your time. It could be 1 month. So you're ahead of your time. You feel like you are a part of this world, but not of it, right? So you don't necessarily feel like you fit in, basically, with the people around you. You might have a lot of friends, because Aquarius is a sign of friendship, but it's like there's still this attachment energy connected to them. So when you have Aquarius in the 8th house, you might have to transmute a lot of like shadow Aquarius energies, which sometimes could be like, you know, you kind of doing things just to be, let's say, a contrarian, or just challenging the status quo just to be different, for example, like on purpose, right? Because like Aquarius is naturally different, but sometimes they go into the shadow, right? Where they are fighting against certain things, and it's like, it's just to kind of be, you know, oppositional, for example, right? So it depends, like, how is the energy being expressed. But I think it's also the struggle with Aquarius is interesting, right? Because Aquarius is currently ruled by Uranus, used to be ruled by Saturn, right? So in terms of the Saturnian rulership in Aquarius, the way that I always see it, like the ancient rulership and Aquarius, is like Aquarius feels restricted down here on this earth plane because their ideas are futuristic and ahead of the time. So really what Aquarius is meant to do is like figure out the timing of when to pitch their ideas, is basically what that is. That's kind of what Aquarius is mastering, timing. And sometimes with them, what can happen is like either they say their ideas too soon when they're younger and then people don't listen and then your throat chakra gets shut off, right? Or you just, again, feel very like, again, you don't fit, like you feel like you don't fit into this world, right? So you don't necessarily share your ideas, but you're not meant to do that. Do you know what I mean? You're meant to still share them, but you're also meant to figure out when to pitch them, right? So sometimes if you think of something and it's super ahead of the time, well, maybe you might want to write it down, for example, okay? So at a future date when the collective has kind of caught up with you, you then pitch it, right? Because then it'll, you know, serve the collective. That's the thing, because Aquarius, like the ideas are higher minded to help the collective propel forward, is basically what that is, right? Like you could have the best idea in the world, but if there's no, you know, collective to pick up on it, right? Or to sell it to, let's say it's a product, there's no people to sell it to, then there's no point. It doesn't matter that it's the best idea in the world, right? There's no market for it. That's the word that I'm looking for. Hey everyone, I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. Aquarius South Node, that's interesting. And then your North Node would be in Leo. So for you in this lifetime, it's all about being on that stage. So a previous lifetime for you could have been all mental ideas. For example, it could have been all about, you know, innovations. Now you're kind of coming through, maybe taking something that you thought of in a previous lifetime and figuring out how can you anchor it now in this current lifetime. Yeah, exactly. So Aquarius, definitely don't feel like you fit anywhere, but you're okay with that. Exactly. It's very much like an ET type of energy, like alien is basically what it is. Like this energy feels like it's not part of this world, because it isn't. It's futuristic. You can kind of look at Aquarius energy or even Uranus aspects as like you're coming back, you know, from the future, right? You are almost like a time traveler in a way. That's kind of like the Aquarius energy. That's how I see it. You said Chiron in Pisces, also North Node in Pisces. And then you said you're just an airhead. That's the thing. It's like you have to look at the energy and then you have to look at the Earth's energy, right? So Pisces struggles down here because of the fact that Pisces it's about the higher vibrations. You know what I mean? It's more feminine energy leaning. It's more spiritual. There's no boundaries with Pisces. You know, with Pisces, you don't know where they start and where they end, right? So it's interesting because it's like, I wouldn't say it's an airhead type of energy. Like, it's not like they're oblivious. They're just not in their bodies is basically what that is with the Pisces energy. They're like always somewhere else. They're always in another dimension. It's almost like the majority of your consciousness is somewhere else. And there's almost like this like little, you know, spliff or whatever, or like this little sliver, I guess is the word that I'm looking for, right here in this current dimension. That's kind of how Pisces is. So it's hard for them to operate down here because they're operating on the spiritual planes is really what that is. So when you have Chiron in Pisces, you're basically meant to heal through Pisces types of things, right? Unconditional love, you know, the metaphysical world, basically maybe even anything to do with like music as well, these types of things. Okay, BRB, you guys. Okay, I am back. You're welcome. What's the purpose of Pisces? Basically to anchor their spiritual knowledge down here, but in a grounded way. And that's the struggle at the same time. Do you know what I mean? It's to apply what they know in the physical sense. Like, let's say you have a lot of spiritual knowledge. Let's say you know all about the laws of the universe. Well, you're meant to master the material plane. This is just from my own opinion, the material plane with this information. Because what's the point of knowing all of the spiritual information if you're not actually going to apply it or use it? Do you know what I mean? You're just wasting brain space in that case, right? So that's kind of what Pisces is here to do. Yes, they're here also to help people and be of service, like that's there. And they also do take on a lot of things and they transmute a lot of energy for other people as well. But it's like at the same time, it's like you want to take all of this knowledge that you have and apply it basically in this physical realm. That's the way that I see it, in the physical reality. You said, what should you know about Mercury square Pluto? So you're always 10 steps ahead with that energy, but also like there could be a trauma response with Mercury square Pluto. For example, like Okay, Pluto and Scorpio, the energy with them is like they are hypervigilant because they are always trying to preserve the self, is basically what that is, okay? So that's the root of why Scorpio is doing everything, is to preserve the self, okay? Now, what are they preserving? You're gonna have to explore and see maybe what took place that could have been a traumatic event, because it's gonna be different things for different people, right? A lot of the time it's going to be connected to abandonment, fear of loss, losing people, all these things, because you usually experience those things at an early age. It could be betrayal, for example. It could be, you know, there's different types of betrayal, right? There could be betrayal when someone betrays you, but there could also be betrayal where it's like your external environment wasn't necessarily matching your internal environment. That's usually how Scorpio becomes psychic, okay? So with Mercury square Pluto, it's like, when it's in the shadow, you're hypervigilant, right? So you're always trying to mentally prepare yourself for, you know, that outcome not to happen, or, you know, trying to push it away, or trying to control it, trying to calculate, okay, if I do this, then this will happen. You know, it's all happening unconsciously. It's very unconscious. So that wastes a lot of brain space, and it wastes a lot of brain power, and also all of the manifestation energy gets depleted, and so does your life force energy, right? Because you're spending all of it focused on, let's say it's a person you don't want to lose, let's say it's a situation, let's say it's a job, whatever it is, right? If you're in that hypervigilance energy, right? So when you come out of that and you heal that and you figure out what the root of that energy is, then you can go into your psychic gifts and abilities, and you're 10 steps ahead for yourself, right? So you can use it in different realms, right? You can use it for yourself in terms of where you want to be, right? In terms of your life, like what area are you trying to go to? What are you trying to do? You can do it, let's say, you know, business forecasting, for example, like a financial analyst, these types of things, right? Where you're able to see how something's going to play out. You're playing chess, not checkers, but you're not wasting your energy on something traumatic that took place. I really, really hope that that makes sense, okay? So that's Mercury square Pluto. It gives you the undertone of basically having a Plutonian type of mind, okay? Now, in the extreme shadow, this energy can go into like a criminal mind as well, okay? So yeah, I'm just gonna put that out there too. Oh, thank you, Concerned. Thank you. Okay, I'm going back up to see who I may have missed up here. You're welcome. Mars, Venus conjunction Sagittarius in the second house. Can you tell me if Sagittarius is occupying your second house overall? I'm curious to know. Mars Venus conjunction is nice because usually you're going to be attractive when you have Mars Venus, and it could be physical attractiveness, or it could be like the way that you express yourself. You could have like a very graceful way of just like speaking or expressing yourself, or like your, you know, hand gestures and movements when you have Mars Venus conjunct. You could also just be very, again, attractive, like balanced in your masculine feminine energy within. You could overall be very balanced in your masculine feminine energy within as well. Like let's say you want to do something artistic, like that's Venus, then Mars acts on it. For example, maybe you dress up nice, okay? You could be charismatic, you could be charming with that energy. So it's a good energy to be around people, okay? So when you have Mars conjunct Venus, you want to be out there interacting with people. You don't want to be hidden in a corner somewhere. That's not going to work for that energy, okay? Unless you have other things going on in your chart overall, okay? But as Mars Venus aspects overall, these people are usually attractive. And then you have it in Sagittarius and in the second house. If you're still in the room, let me know if your second house is occupied by Sagittarius overall. Venus in Sag and Mars in Sag. The challenge here would be grounding that energy. I will say that much, because Sag is mutable. So Mars in Sagittarius sometimes struggles to, because Mars is all about ambition, right? And it's all about like going after a goal. So it's like if you're not grounded in what you want in terms of your goal, it's hard to have something come through, right? Because Sag, you know, it could be boring for them. They drop it. This is more fun. I want to go on this adventure. I want to go here. I want to go there. And then the Mars energy kind of gets wasted, okay? And that way. So it's like if you do pick what you want to do, I just posted a video about this today, actually, like a little short about it. And I was basically saying that, you know, Sagittarius, when they do pick what they want to do and they put their energy toward that thing because it's fire and it's masculine, they're going to basically bring it through, okay? They become very good at it, but it takes them a while to figure out what they want to do because the energy is scattered, right? This is more fun. That's more fun. I want to go here. I want to go there. I want to go on this adventure. I want to travel, right? So that's that Sagittarius energy. Thanks so much for the likes, you guys. And make sure you double tap the video as well if you so choose to, because that's going to like the actual video itself. Hey, Stu loves astrology. How are you doing? You're welcome. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'm just going back up here. You have Uranus in Capricorn, 4th house is conjunct Neptune. Can you tell me, okay, it's conjunct Neptune. Is Neptune also in your 4th house for you? I have a video on my YouTube channel here, okay? That is called the Uranus-Neptune conjunction and the leaders of tomorrow, okay? So a lot of millennials, some Pluto and Sagittarius have this as well, this conjunction. But basically these people, you're part of the generation, right? The subset of the generation overall. So, okay, the sign with the generational planets affects the overall generation. The house affects you more. That's how it works, okay? So because you're part of the generation, it's going to obviously affect you as well, okay? With Uranus and Neptune conjunct in Capricorn. These people, you know, in a nutshell, because I made a whole video on this, so definitely check it out if you're interested in learning more. But in a nutshell, basically they're here to break free from the old structures is basically what that is, okay? So with that being said, up until this point in time, a lot of them you'll see were either entrepreneurial, they had side hustles, you know, they were starting businesses, so on and so forth, because they were kind of learning how to basically get those skills, right? The business skills and all these types of things. So it's like in the future, either you're going to see these people start to, let's say, climb the corporate ladder, for example, or let's say they're going to go into political roles, or like they're going to go into governmental roles, like these types of things. Okay. Okay, my screen just went black, so I'm still here. Hey, everyone. Okay, anyway, so what I was saying was, they're either, it's such a Mercury retrograde type of thing these days with technology. But anyways, as I was saying, with Uranus and Neptune, they're either going to change the structure from within, okay, by going into these roles, like the elevated positions, or they're going to leave the structure altogether, okay, and then they're going to start, let's say, their businesses on the side and these types of things, okay? So basically changing the structure from either within or by leaving it, okay? But the structure is going to be changed with that subset of the generation, okay? And now the fact that it's in the 4th house for you, I'm just checking down here to see if you were in the chat when I asked you if both of those are in the 4th house. Because it's in the 4th house for you, the Uranus in the 4th house gives you the undertone of having an Aquarius moon. And then the Neptune in the 4th house gives you the undertone of having a Pisces moon. So, you know, having the undertone of having the Aquarius moon, you're going to be detached. You're going to want your space. Your individuality is going to be very important for you, okay? But then the undertone of having the Pisces moon, you know, sometimes these people, Neptune in the 4th, first of all, are going to be psychic, you're going to be super intuitive, but at the same time, sometimes these individuals can kind of like really dream of having their own home. So they might have kids early, for example, because they're trying to rectify their childhood. It could be this. You know, a lot of the time, these people, like when they were growing up, they wanted to have this ideal family type of vibe, like the Neptune in the 4th. This could also be Pisces moon, or even if you have Pisces in the 4th house, okay? These people, 4th house being the IC. These individuals, you know, spend a lot of time, let's say, in their room or on their own. First of all, while they're in their own energy, this is how their psychic gifts and abilities come online. But also, they spend a lot of time like dreaming and daydreaming, like, oh, when I have the perfect family, oh, like if I had the perfect family. Because a lot of the time with these energies, what happens with the family members? So either Pisces moon, Pisces 4th house, Neptune in the 4th house, okay? The IC in Pisces, which is the 4th house in Pisces, you know, the parents, what I've noticed with them, either you have the home that's unconditionally loving, which is the ideal case scenario for this energy. But down here on this earth plane, things tend to operate at irony for whatever reason. So you tend to get the opposite of that. So either you get the divine version or you get the shadow version, which is like the parents aren't like this. They're not unconditionally loving. They maybe don't know how to hold space for your intuitive nature or for your emotions overall. So you're left on your own a lot to be, let's say, in isolation. Maybe they're also working a lot of the time. And also what I've noticed with this energy as well is that a lot of the time the parents could be like young parents or like not ready to have kids, or they have kids at an early age. Like something of the sort takes place where they're escapists, they're escaping, or they're like, there's another manifestation of this as well that I noticed where it's like the parents are like artists, for example, or like trying to chase their art career or something of the sort, okay? Where it's like they're escapists of some sort. But then you also have the extreme version of this where it's like they could be escaping through drugs and substance abuse as well. So it depends which of these manifestations you get. But regardless, okay, the root of the energy is you spend a lot of your time either on your own or in your own energy where you're dreaming of having this like ideal type of family, right? So because you're in that energy, either, you know, you can heal the inner child for yourself, or sometimes these people have kids early because they're trying to rectify that, basically, okay? That's how that works. You said you might have met a love bomber last week. He took you to his parents' house and super romantic, and now he says he just wants to be friends. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, definitely when it comes to dating, you want to spend a lot of time vetting these people, like a lot of time vetting these people to see like what are they all about and watching their actions, okay? You always want to watch people's actions. Don't listen to what they're saying. Watch their actions. That's more important than anything, because anybody can say anything, okay? Is basically what that is. So it's this. I'm just going back up to see what else are you guys saying up here. Thanks for the likes, you guys. And if you're just joining, I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Pisces North Node, 10th house. Interesting, your name is Poetic Inspirations, because that's literally Pisces North Node, like right there. Okay, Poetic Inspirations if you're still in the room. So your South Node would be in Virgo, and it would be in the 4th house. A lot of your home and your family could be pulling you out of your North Node, okay, with that 4th house Virgo energy taking place. So there could be things that you have to clear with them first in order to come into your overall North Node, which is your life purpose in this lifetime. Your life purpose, it's interesting because it's in the 10th house. I'm curious to know if you're still in the room, does your midheaven overall occupy Pisces, or does Pisces occupy the midheaven? Like, is your 10th house in Pisces as well? Let me know. And are these two conjunct? I'm also curious about that, if you're still in the room. But regardless, like when you have Pisces in the 10th house, like your career might not be obvious to you, or you might want to do everything and then nothing gets done, okay? So with that being said, you know, you are probably best off picking one thing. Obviously, you have the free will to do what you want, but pick one thing that you want to do. So for example, since your name is Poetic Inspirations, maybe it's poetry that you want to do, which is very Piscean, okay? So just stick to that, right? Pick the one thing that you want to do and focus on only that. Don't try to be scattered, because that Pisces energy can want to do everything, and when you're trying to do everything, nothing gets done, okay? So it's this, but overall the life purpose is something Pisces, right? And it's the 10th house, so it's a public life where you're engaging with the public, for example, okay? So it could be, let's say, the metaphysical world. It could be, let's say, tarot. It could be music. It could be poetry. It could be film. It could be theater, right? Depends on the rest of the natal chart, but it could be anything of the sort. That's where you are heading in this lifetime. Yes, Mary, exactly. It's exactly that. Ahead of this time and more elevated than this overall energetic matrix. You said, if I have more dating advice as spiritual, sensitive, this group individual, let us know. As spiritual, sensitive, this group individual. What would you like to know? Let me know. You said you think you went too fast. You only knew each other for a week, but have friends in common. Yeah, 1 week is way too quick. Everything happens too fast, unfortunately, these days. If you ask me, you want to give people time, because time is going to reveal everything, and it's going to reveal people's true intentions, okay? So that's pretty much my main advice is this. Obviously, you all have the free will to do what you want, but you want to pace people and you want to give them the time to see, again, you know, like what is the actual intention here that's taking place, right? Unless you are super intuitive and you can pick up on it right away. It's this. So anytime something's going too fast or someone's trying to, again, make things happen really quickly, like to me, that's always just like shady energy, because it's like, why are you trying to rush this? Do you know what I mean? Are they trying to rush it because they're hiding something? Are they trying to rush it because there's something else happening behind the scenes? Is it some like strange, like energetic, like timeline that they've put on themselves? And then it's like, for what reason? Do you know what I mean? So it's this. And it's like, it's unfortunate because it's a few things. Like these days, everything is instantaneous. Everything is fast is basically what that is. But it's like easy come, easy go, first of all. And second of all, you know, if you look at relationships and the progression of a relationship, like that needs time to take place, right? It's really interesting because like these days, everything is like, I think it's because we have like Amazon Prime and like all these things and things are fast. People think that like the, you know, things happening quickly is something that should be a thing. Do you know what I mean? But it's like when things happen fast, you don't see everything. You don't see the full picture is basically what that is, okay? You said patriarchy wants us to be overly anxious about having serious relationships too early in our lives. That's true as well. That is true as well, because so that whole, oh my gosh, okay, if we're gonna get on this tangent, like this is a whole conversation of its own. The whole reason for that is because the shadow, I call this the shadow patriarchy. I don't even think it's like real patriarchy. I think it's the shadow patriarchy because everything is inverted energetically. So it's shadow masculine energy. So the whole reason for that is because they're trying to trap people energetically, like before their prefrontal cortex develops. Like that's my own theory and my own opinion. So they're trying to put the pressure on people, you know, when they're young, to rush into things, to make things fast, to make quick decisions. And like a lot of these decisions are either like going to bind you energetically to another person, which can pull you off your path, or they're going to bind you financially to a person, which then it's hard to get out of. So it's a lot is really what that is. Or it's like sometimes, you know, here's the thing, okay? If you go after something, this is the way that I always saw things. And I actually learned this at a very young age. I actually learned this. Okay, let me tell you guys a story. I learned this when I was in grade 7, okay? When I was in grade 7, I learned the whole concept of scarcity mindset, okay? So how old are you when you're in grade 7? I don't even know, like 12, okay? I actually don't know how old are you in grade 7. I'm thinking. I actually think you might be 12, 13. Anyway, so let me tell you guys a story. And this is how I learned about scarcity mindset. from an early age, okay? So when I was in grade 7, okay, you know, they would split off the classes, right? So I was being put in the class where I didn't have my friends, right? So I was gonna be the only one in that class and I wouldn't know anybody, right? All my friends were gonna be in the other class. So basically me in my scarcity, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna know anybody in that class. So I called up this person, right? Because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna have anybody to sit with in the class. So I called up this person and I was like, oh, like, do you wanna sit together? Let me tell you how this turned into the longest karmic relationship. Like, I was not able to get rid of this person, okay, for like the longest time, right? After that, I went from that point in time, okay, that young, to never go out of my way to try to make something happen is basically what I learned, right? Because I was like, okay, if I had just let things flow, it would have been different. And like, obviously back then when I was young, I didn't know about karmic relationships. I'm calling it a karmic relationship now, but it was a karmic dynamic, right? So the way that I see things is if things are meant to happen, they will come to you. It will be effortless in the sense where it's like, it's more feeling based. I can't explain it any other way. Like, it's gonna go with the flow. It's not gonna be something that you feel like you're in a scarcity or you have to do it or it's like something fast and these types of things, right? When that's the energy behind it, it could be coming from different reasons, right? It could be scarcity. It could be sometimes desperate energy. Desperate energy is the worst energy, by the way, because it's like if you're putting desperate energy out there, then you're only gonna attract desperate energy to you as well. And again, you're gonna find yourself in a lot of karmic situations or like karmic webs or like karmic entanglements with people or situations or whatever it is, right? So it's this, you never wanna go out of your way. You can kind of see what is presented to you and then you can assess if you want to engage in those things that are coming to you, but you don't want to go out of your way, okay? So that's the moral of that story. Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad that resonated. Okay, I'm going back up. It is the shadow. No, it is the shadow. I was just thinking about this today. Everything is inverted down here, okay? So everything that you learn, you want to learn the opposite, basically, is really what that is. So it's like, it's all just shadow energy, inversions. Everything is backwards. It's really interesting. It's really interesting to see how it's just like, and I believe that part of the reason for that is to create confusion. And the other part of the reason for that is to take people like out of their intuition is basically what that is. Cause it's like a battle for people between the logical mind and the intuitive mind. You know what I mean? So when you're presented with like a confusing scenario, for example, in terms of like the energies being inverted down here on this earth plane, it's like your intuition could be telling you like, oh, this is not what you're supposed to be doing right now, or I have a bad feeling about this, or I have a bad vibe about this. But like logically, if that's something that's been taught to you, the logical mind will be like, well, no, this is how it's supposed to be. And then that's what so many people get themselves into karmic entanglements as well, right? And karmic situations as well. So it's just like, it's a matter of getting in tune with your intuition is basically what that is, okay? I was thinking once how like the modern day lobotomy is like not allowing people or like gaslighting people out of their intuition or like not teaching people how to be in tune with their intuition, like whatever term you want to use, right? Because it's like a societal thing, right? People not being in tune with their intuition for whatever societal reason is like the modern day lobotomy. That's just my own opinion though. You're welcome. I'm so glad that resonated. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. You said Saturn in Aries in the 5th house, aspiring screenwriter here. It's moving slowly. Yeah, it's that Saturn in the 5th house probably. But I'm curious to know what else you got going on in your natal chart as well. That could bring through the screenwriting abilities. There's probably other things in there taking place. You're welcome. Okay, I'm going back up. I'm glad that resonated. South Node Scorpio, North Node Taurus. So you're meant to master the earth plane in this lifetime. Money, luxury, abundance, okay? Can I share any insight on a Virgo stellium, Mercury, Sun, Chiron, midheaven, all in the 9th house? Virgo, okay, so interesting. I was just thinking about this earlier as well. Virgo, what they're meant to master is understanding that this earth plane is not perfect, okay? So they struggle a lot down here. First of all, they're trying to be perfect, but the whole like concept of Virgo and perfection is connected to criticism, okay? Because you have the sun in there. It could be the father that was critical of you, but overall you have a Virgo stellium, so it could have been just like everyone that was like critical of you, okay? And then that could perpetuate throughout your different relationships. It could be mainly with masculines as well though, because it is the sun in Virgo. But regardless, it could be whoever took on that dominant masculine role in your life, okay? For sun in Virgo. So Sun in Virgo and in general Virgo stellium, like they are very hard on themselves for a few reasons. First of all, you bounce off of Pisces, right? So there is this idealism within Virgo, okay, that's connected to the Pisces energy, which is your oppositional energy. And it's like they set sometimes very high standards for themselves or very high goals for themselves. And sometimes it's like a self-sabotaging energy if the goal is too high Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say you do have like a huge goal you want to achieve, you want to do like baby steps, right? So it's like you want to work backwards and kind of like build your way to that thing, right? Sometimes these energies set like a really high expectations for them, a really high expectation for themselves, and it's like because the expectation is so high, it could then be a huge disappointment if you don't achieve it, right? Versus kind of doing the baby steps like pattern, right, to get there, and then it's like you kind of get like the small wins, and then eventually you get there. Do you know what I mean? It's like a different vibration, right? So Virgo is very hard on themselves, and they're also hard on the world around them, because then they live in this like perfection energy, and then when people around them aren't perfect, okay, they, yes, can go into criticism as well, but also with them, it's like they can be very disappointed. Do you know what I mean? They can be very like disappointed by the world around them because the world is not quote unquote perfect, or like it's not, or the people around them, for example, aren't living to the best of their ability, right? Or like sometimes it's like a potential thing. Like Virgo can really live into, you know, their full potential, or trying to get there at least. So like when people around them aren't living up to their full potential, they're kind of like, why are you wasting your potential? Do you know what I mean? So it could be this, amongst many other things. I have a video on this actually if you want to learn more about Virgo energy, okay? If you want to learn more about Virgo energy, it's under my Everything You Need to Know About the Signs playlist. I have a video called Everything You Need to Know About Virgo Energy, because I notice with Virgos, a lot of the time for them, from a very young age, they're very competent. Like the parents might have given you a lot of responsibilities at a very young age. Maybe you were a very good student. Maybe you were like the kid in the home who did everything perfectly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's say you helped like the parents make sandwiches or whatever, and the parents were like, oh my gosh, you're so good at making the sandwiches. Now you're going to make it for the rest of the siblings. Like things like this. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of continuously feed into this like competent role, like super competent, super perfect. And then it's like when people around you aren't like that, there's a huge disappointment, okay? But what I will say is like when Virgo goes off the handle, when they really go into the shadow, and then they go into like the shadow of Virgo, which is then like the shadow of Pisces, like they are so messy, they're all over the place, because it's like finally when they get like the breath of fresh air from living in this energy, do you know what I mean? They can go into the other extreme, right? And that's kind of how you neutralize the energy within you as well, right? They can go into the other extreme where they go kind of into like shadow Pisces almost, where it's like they're not connected to this physical realm anymore. They're just chilling all the time. They could be messy. They could be wilding out. Like it's really interesting to see this energy. Rarely do you see that with them, but if they do, that's kind of how it plays out. Let's see. Oh my gosh, you're so funny, Concerned. Okay, I'm going back up to see what you guys were saying up here. How are you guys? I'm doing well. I'm glad that you noticed that too. You said it's like they're either super clean, perfect, or totally messy. Exactly. When they go into the messy energy, I find, and this is like a Pisces thing too, I find when this energy gets overwhelmed energetically and there's just like too much to process that's not processed, they kind of go into the messy energy aspect of things. Like things around them are messy, they're not organized anymore, because Virgo is organized, right? But if it gets to the point of like them being burnt out or overwhelmed, or there's too much going on, or they're just like done, or they're going into like the shadow of the energy, they can be messy, which is really interesting. Nobody would think that, right? I'm glad that that resonated. Hey, acupuncture, authentic acupuncture, how are you doing? You said, what is the influence of Sirius star in one's chart? I'd have to do a video on that one. Thank you, Mary. Okay, I'm going back up. Somehow I accidentally clicked and went back down, but now I'm coming back up again. Let's see what you guys were saying up here. You have Sun, Saturn, Venus, and Aquarius. Oh, it's so interesting. So I had someone asking about Aquarius. You said, can I give you insights on how to maximize your potential? Okay. So I had someone earlier talking or asking about Aquarius, and basically the Aquarius energy, okay, there's a few things. If you want to see what I said earlier, you'd have to watch probably the replay of this and go back to see what I was saying then. I also have another video on my Everything You Need to Know About the Signs, like in that playlist, there's one, Everything You Need to Know About Aquarius energy. So Aquarius energy, okay, basically you can look at it as their karma or their purpose or what they're meant to do down here, okay, on this earth plane, is like you're meant to help propel the collective forward. It's basically what that is, okay? So you're ahead of the time, okay? You're a little bit out of body because all the signs from Scorpio onwards are, okay? You're a little bit intuitive and psychic in the sense of like clear cognizance with Aquarius energy. So it's like knowing, right? You think about something, you think about concepts, you think about ideas, you think about, you know, all these things like, why is it like this? How can we fix this? Like that's that Aquarius energy, right? So they're here to basically help propel the collective forward, right? In terms of their ideas, in terms of innovations, in terms of technology, in terms of, let's say, the fashion industry. Sometimes I see fashion as like very Aquarius energy as well. So something of the sort, okay? You think of something, some sort of invention, some sort of new thing. Saturn's restricting you though, because you have Saturn in Aquarius as well, but that's also generational. So you're going to share that with other millennials as well, the Saturn in Aquarius. But it's like you've already had your Saturn return, so this energy could have potentially matured for you now or soon, okay, when you turn 35, because Saturn matures around the age of 35, okay? In anyone's natal chart is really what that is. So up until that point in time, it could feel kind of like a really restricted energy and like an uphill battle, but after then, it's like you might kind of like get it, right, with these Saturnian energies. So having Aquarius in here, it's like, again, you could have felt restricted in your ideas, in the futuristic way of thinking, right? Usually starts with the father, then it could be the teachers, it could be the managers. Let's say in school you had futuristic ideas, but nobody was registering them. Do you know what I mean? And then you see, and this is the irony with Aquarius, you see in 5 years that everybody, or like 10, whatever, right? Traditionally in astrology, they would say it's 10 to 15 years ahead of the time. The Aquarius energy, these days, the frequency of the planet is higher. So maybe it's like 5 years, maybe it's like 2, whatever, right? But you catch my drift, right? So basically, it's like you may have seen when you were younger that you would think of things, or maybe you would catch trends, or you would be really interested in something and nobody was interested in it. You were maybe the only one. And then everybody started being interested in it, let's say a few years later or a few months later, for example, right? So that's kind of like the struggle with Aquarius and like the Saturnian rulership, which used to be the ancient rulership of Aquarius, right? Right now it's ruled by Uranus, but it used to be ruled by Saturn. The struggle with this energy is like, you know, you are mastering time and you're mastering timing, okay, is really what that is. Learning when to pitch your idea. So a lot of the time, these people can have their throat chakra shut off at a young age, especially Saturn and Aquarius, because again, nobody was receiving your ideas, right? Or sometimes maybe people took your ideas and let's say when you pitched it, nobody, you know, reacted and maybe somebody else took it, or like, let's say it was just like, again, because the thing is, the Aquarius energy is like a little bit out of body, so you're catching things that are on the astral plane, right? When it's on the astral plane, it's like, it's a form of predicting is really what that is, right? It's like a psychic gift in this way, but it's claircognizance, so it's ideas that you are catching that are on the astral plane. So what tends to happen with this energy is like you might see in a few years that somebody, let's say, pitches that same idea and gets maybe notoriety for it, or people pick up on it, right? But it's like they just happen to catch the timing. So that's kind of what Aquarius is battling with down here in terms of the Saturn rulership, is the timing aspect of things. Like the Aquarius energy feels very restricted down here, okay, in terms of the timing aspect of things is really what that is, okay? But you should still keep sharing, you should still keep, you know, pitching your ideas. You should maybe write them down, obviously, if you so choose to do so, right? And figure out when to pitch these things, right? You don't want your throat chakra to be fully shut off. You said your daughter's rising is in Virgo and she doesn't seem to be concerned at all with perfection, Leo, Sun, Libra, Moon. I mean, maybe that's the only Virgo placement that she has. You said your mom was a Virgo, so true in your experience. Yeah, that's the thing with Virgo energy. Maybe it's something that will come up later on in life, because here's the thing. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Here's the thing with Virgo, what I've noticed with them. Virgo, it's a few things, okay? Virgo, I find with them and their perfection is rooted in a sense of needing to control, okay? So there's something here where it's like when they perfect something, it gives them the sense of control, right? So it's like when they're young, maybe they're not like this because they don't need that. Do you know what I mean? Nothing has happened in their life where they need to have, you know, that control in their lives, right? I find as they get older and like in general, as everybody gets older, you start to see that the external world around you is more out of control. So like Virgo tries to hold on to what they can control, right? And for them, the control for them in their lives, okay, is in routine, okay? That's when they feel like they are in control. So it's like when their routine is thrown off even like a little bit, you will see that they don't know how to cope with that energy, right? They don't know what to do. They kind of go into maybe certain shadow traits or shadow energies because they are very stuck and fixed, let's say, in a specific routine. That's why Virgo deals with routine. But for Virgo, the routine gives them a sense of control. So it's like you'd have to explore and see what took place for them to need to be in control, okay? That's something that everybody would have to explore. So you might notice this like later on in life with the Virgo energy. It might come out more. You said sun, moon, south. You said sun, moon, south, no, 12th house, Virgo. There it is. There's that Virgo energy, okay? Virgo is the healer overall, so sometimes these energies can get burnt out energetically, okay? Virgo energy, because they're here to help and be of service, but also what they're meant to learn is to fill their own cup first, okay? Sometimes you'll see these people, let's say you have a Virgo stellium, you'll see these people in roles where they're being of service. Maybe they're a doctor, maybe they're a nurse, depends on the combinations in the chart, right? But it's like Virgo can overextend themselves to the point of burning themselves out, okay? They're helping everybody. And then they can also go into the shadow of Virgo, which is a doormat energy as well, okay? Where everyone's kind of walking all over them and these types of things. So So much to say, but overall, if it's in the rising sign, that's the direction that she is heading in, okay? And having Virgo in the rising, what's nice about this energy is you have an angelic face, okay? You have this like youthful, angelic appearance to you. So I can always spot a Virgo rising. It's a very specific type of look. You said the mom in the movie Ordinary People demonstrated the need for perfection perfectly when something went wrong in her life. Exactly. There you go, okay? So it's like a, again, I'm not a psychologist, so obviously I can't diagnose people. I know we're just talking about a movie, but it's like, it's a type of almost like trauma response when it's like, you know, something outside and external to you is not in control. So you try to control and hold on to whatever is internal, right? So you'll see this sometimes even like with people in relationships, for example, right? Like let's say you're in a relationship. I know one of you guys was asking about dating and relationship advice as well. You know, you never want to place all of your stability and security on another person, right? You want to have your own stability, because when that person leaves, then you don't have stability in your life anymore. And then when you feel instability, you're going to try to latch onto anything. You might go into, again, certain types of behaviors that you wouldn't normally and typically do, right? So if you do, let's say, live in a country that's a Western country where you can be financially independent and you can have your own stability, that's probably the best case scenario, to have your own stability, to have your own thing going for you, and then allowing, let's say, a relationship to be something complementary to that. You never want to put all of your stability on another person. Now, that's the thing. That's why relationships were so shadowy back in the day, for example, because of the fact that one person's stability was contingent upon another person. Like one person's root chakra, which is the stability, was contingent upon another person's, right? So it's like we are healing through that as a collective. You can look at it as healing. We are working through that as a collective. It's codependency also in this energy as well. So it can lead to codependency as well, right? So it's a lot of this. So when you don't have that stability, you're trying to hold on to whatever you can, right? Or let's say, you know, let's say it's a job, for example, right? Even in that case, like my recommendation for people would be to have multiple streams of income. You never want to be in a situation where you're dependent on anything, even if it's a job. Let's say you're dependent on a job to be your only source of income. Well, if you're wise, you would have multiple streams of income coming through, right? Because then you're not dependent on that job. You know what I mean? If something happens, you still have something else going for you until you find, let's say, another job, for example, right? So you can apply it to any realm of life is really what that is. But that's how you can like also start to play with the energies to create some form of energetic stability for yourself is really what that is. But it's this, okay? So sometimes when people don't have stability, or like, you know, something is taking place that takes them out of this routine and creates instability for them, they're going to try to hold on to whatever is closest in that particular situation, okay? You said, wow, you picked her name because it meant helper. Oh my gosh, I love that. There you go. That's the direction she's heading in, okay? Virgo rising is heading in the direction of basically being a healer in this lifetime. You said, yes, you've been on both extremes throughout your life. As you get older, you're more aware and you try to catch yourself. Yeah, it's like I think it's like a human thing too. Like, yes, it's a Virgo thing, but it's also a human thing to stay in the comfort zone. Like as we age, right? As humans, right? You want to stay with what's familiar because, I mean, we could analyze this now for the entire day, right? Like perhaps part of the reason is because as you get older, you start to see what the world is all about. So it's like when you do have a little bit of stability in your life or comfort, you want to hold on to that, right? But at the same time, you don't want to depend on it. So it's like, it's really ironic is really what that is. You said, what would an unaspected Neptune in the second house do? So when you have an unaspected placement, it's basically wilding out, okay? It's kind of like acting unhinged is basically what that is, right? Because it's not aspected. There's nothing to pull it and hold it, you know, in place is basically what that is. So when you have unaspected Neptune, it is generational. So you might not, let's say, feel it as much because it is Neptune, right? It's a generational planet. But you do have it in the second house and it's unaspected. So maybe you go overly into the energy of like dreaming about money, for example, when you have Neptune in the second house. Oh my gosh, when I have this much money, oh, if I could find this much money on the ground, oh, you know, did I find that money on the ground? Or when I win this much money in the lottery, like that's Neptune in the second, like dreaming about money and like large sums of money, right? So the trick with Neptune is take the dream, okay, and try to ground it into this physical reality. So let's say you have this vision of having a lot of money. Well, you know, you're going to have to pair the action along with the vision. That's the whole tricks of the trade here, okay? You want to pair the action along with the vision or the visualization or the prayer is basically what that is, okay? Pisces rising appearance is interesting. Pisces risings, they might look angelic, okay? With all of the water placements, there's always something going on with the eyes with them. Like Pisces rising can look more, to me, they might look more like there's like an innocence to them. Any Pisces rising or like Neptune, Pisces aspects, or hold on. Any Pisces rising or Neptune and ascendant aspects, okay, Neptune ascendant, even sometimes Neptune and Sun aspect, they might have like an innocent look to them. They might look very like kind, and like with the eyes, they might kind of like have like doe eyes almost, for example. Like it's a very specific type of look with like that Pisces influence when it comes to the, let's say, Pisces rising, or again, Neptune aspecting the ascendant, or even Neptune sometimes aspecting the sun. Okay, so there's that. And then also, like, sometimes because you might look kind, for example, people will approach you all the time. The struggle with this energy is people are always projecting onto you, so you might not actually see yourself clearly. For example, when you have these aspects, okay, the Pisces rising or the Neptune aspecting the ascendant, okay, in this particular case, what can take place is like, you might notice that people say to you, you look like this actor or actress, you look like this actor or actress, and they could all be different, okay? Because people are seeing in you something that they have within their own dream. Do you know what I mean? Of you, if that makes sense. So it's really interesting because you might kind of be like, well, what do I even look like? Because everyone's seeing something different when they tell me this actor or actress looks like me, or that actor or actress looks like me. Do you know what I mean? It's really interesting with these aspects. But you know, you could attract stalkers, for example. Oh my gosh, hey Esperanza. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my gosh, hey from Brazil. I was in Brazil earlier this year. I loved it. So much beautiful nature. I'm glad that you love the videos. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being a part of the channel. You said, how would you interpret Jupiter in conjunction with Saturn? You have it in the 8th house. Oh my gosh, that's intense, that 8th house energy. Jupiter conjunct Saturn is interesting because it kind of feels like energetically one step forward, two steps back. One step forward, two steps back, right? Because Jupiter's trying to expand, Saturn's trying to restrict, basically, with that energy. Now, having it in the 8th house, Jupiter in the 8th house could be abundance through a spouse or after marriage or some sort of long-term commitment like a common law partner. Or it could be after, let's say, someone crosses out, like an inheritance with Jupiter in the 8th house. So that's Jupiter in the 8th. Saturn in the 8th house is interesting because you get restricted in the area of sexuality, intimacy, vulnerability, emotions, anything to do with the sacral chakra. So it might affect your ability to quote unquote manifest. It's so interesting. I was just speaking on this in the earlier part of this video. Okay, so you might want to rewatch that at the end of this live. Okay, because now you're probably not going to be able to go back when it's like vertical like this. You can't go back, but it's fine. Like when it's done, you can take a look and see what I was saying there in terms of sexual energy. Because what happens with 8th house people is like you incarnate having a lot of sexual energy because you're meant to use that sexual energy to create. Okay, down here on this earth plane. Now, the way that it is down here is, unfortunately, it's a plane of irony, and it's also a plane of duality. And a lot of the time when you have a lot of potential to do something, you tend to get energetically targeted. Why it's like that? Well, probably because certain people want to keep things in place and they want to have a certain type of order. And then people who come through who have a lot of this energy that is a potential for change, right? They get energetically targeted, so they don't use that energy, right? So a lot of the time, people who have a lot of, let's say, the sexual energy could have some sort of thing take place that suppresses either the sexual energy within, especially Saturn in the 8th house. Okay, it could be this. It could be suppressing your vulnerability. It could be suppressing your ability to express your emotions, for example, right? And all this is connected because then that's connected to your manifestation potential, right? Because the life force energy, in my own opinion, comes from your sacral chakra, right? It literally brings through life. So it's like if this energy is being suppressed, or if this energy is kind of being sprinkled all over the place, which is another manifestation of it, right? When it has been wounded, it could either be suppressed or it can go into hypersexualization as well. It's like you're still wasting the energy. It's kind of going to other people, whereas you could be bringing the energy back to yourself and actually using it to create something. So that's the ultimate end goal for that 8th house energy, is to create, is basically what that is, okay? Something for yourself, something that you want to do down here. And unfortunately, certain things could have taken place in the earlier part of your life that could be affecting your sacral chakra, okay? Maybe something you saw on TV, maybe something that you saw, whatever it is, right? So these types of things, and you want to basically break free from that energy that could be pulling you at your sacral chakra, is basically what that is, okay? You said, what if your partner's sun is in your 8th house? I just had a video about this. You're welcome. Hey, Esperanza. Thank you, Concerned. You guys are so awesome. Yes, you guys are awesome. Thank you, thank you. Okay, if your son's partner is in the 8th house, I just had this video. I think I posted it. I'm trying to think. I think I posted the sun in the 8th house video. I think I posted that one in terms of synastry, okay? So usually, okay, here's the thing with synastry. They're going to say the 8th house person feels it more, but the way that I see it is like the 8th house person could be pulling the energy out of the sun person as well. Like it could be both people that are feeling this energy. So basically the sun in the 8th house, the way that I spoke on it and the way that I see it is like it's a breakdown of the ego. All 8th house synastry placements are some form of breakdown of the ego, okay? I know that sounds intense. It doesn't have to be as intense as like a full-blown ego death. It's just going to be something like you thought one thing was one way and it's actually going to be another way now, is basically what that is, okay? It could be somewhere where you are operating out of the shadow or out of the ego behavior, for example, okay? It could be this, and then the A house person could be playing into that. Like that energy, the sun in the A house industry could be a lot of power, you know, and control dynamics between the two people as well. Because it could be like two egos headbutting, for example. Like the A house person could feel it from the sun person, so they could be mirroring energetically to the sun person their ego as well, is basically what that is. So it depends. It depends what's going on in your own charts. Are you used to the A house energy? Have you gotten in tune with your own shadows, right? Because the A house is going to tell you, depends what sign is in here as well, right? It's going to tell you your shadows, right? The shadow of that sign is going to be the A house, the parts of yourself that you are hiding, for example. So sometimes the A house person, okay, can feel very exposed by the sun person because the sun comes in and starts to illuminate these shadows and bring these things to the surface, for example, okay? Or sometimes the A house person can do that to the sun as well. Let's say the A house person is comfortable with their own shadows. They could bring those shadows to the surface out of the A house person, or sorry, out of the sun person as well, right? It could happen like on both sides. It depends what's going on with both people, right? But it could be this. So it depends, because the A house synastry is really interesting. It could be a deep dynamic. It could be intimate, all of these synastry placements. But at the same time, because it is sexual energy, it could also go into unresolved things, okay? There's so much to say about sexual energy, because the sexual energy basically is so interesting. I was just talking about this with a friend the other day. We were basically talking about, because like there's like a codependency energy that I always see like between couples when they kind of get sucked into this like codependency bubble. You can even look at it as like a codependency entity. It's almost like a fog kind of gets fogged around the couple where it's like everything gets blurred. It's really interesting. So anyways, what I was saying to my friend and what we were talking about was something that I said to you guys before too, is like, okay, sexual energy, you guys can kind of look at it as the sexual energy, whether it's present in the dynamic or whether you're actually physically engaging with the person, okay? Obviously, when you're engaging physically with the person, like let's say you're dating them, everything is going to come to the surface, okay? This is regardless whether it's an A house dynamic. If it's an A house dynamic or like Scorpionic or Plutonian, it's going to be this on steroids, okay? Especially if you're physically engaging with the person, because it's everything gets blown up to the surface, right? And every time you, I'm going to go a little bit more in detail here. So if you guys are children, then maybe you're watching the replay, maybe don't watch this. I don't know. It's up to you guys. But anyways, I always select not for kids on my videos. Okay. So you guys better not be kids. So every time you climax, right? What I was thinking about today was like, you're basically opening up an energetic portal, right? And a lot of people don't understand what's actually happening here. So it's like you open up an energetic portal, your aura gets open. So it's like everything that's taking place, first of all, at the base of the spine is coming to the surface, right? So it's interesting to see in these dynamics because like you will see toxic dynamics play out, but it's like at the same time, one, like what the person is being asked to do, or both of the parties in the situation, is to look at themselves, right? Most people are not evolved. So what happens in these dynamics is instead of looking at what is happening at the base of the spine and all of these shadow traits and these shadowy things, the people kind of get just comfortable in, let's say, the relationship. Sometimes they get comfortable in the toxicity of the relationship. Sometimes they just get used to it, whatever it is, right? But basically what the sexual energy is doing in a situation and in a dynamic, it's bringing everything to the surface to be looked at so you can evolve and move on, is basically what that is, right? So this is what I was saying about the codependency demon, because it's like you will see, okay, because codependency is also in the sacral chakra. I hope you guys are following because this is a lot of information, okay? Because the sacral chakra is also connected to codependency, okay? So the sacral chakra being in the codependency energy being in the sacral chakra as well, it's like sometimes people kind of get into this, like, again, it's codependency. They don't want to lose a person because it's attachment, right? So most relationships right now are rooted in attachment, which is shadow, right? That's shadow energy. It's not, people think that it's love, but it's not actually love, or they could turn into a habit, which is another form of the codependency demon. So sometimes you'll see codependent dynamics, like you'll see couples that like end up, and again, this is nothing to do with anything against people who gain weight, but if you guys notice, sometimes couples who gain weight, let's say together, they're kind of going into this complacency energy, right? It's like an energetic thing that's taking place, right? Especially if it's like happening to both people, and that's connected to that codependency energy. I really, really hope that that makes sense. So it's like when people are in these dynamics, what they're actually meant to be doing is transmuting and working on these lower vibrational things that the sexual energy is bringing to the surface, is basically what that is. But sometimes what happens is the energy kind of like gets flattened and then it like levels out and the people become stagnant, is basically what that is. And same thing with like the waking and the relationships, like let's say it's both parties or maybe it's one of the parties. Depends, actually. Sometimes the waking in a relationship, if it's one of the parties, I look at it as sometimes that person could potentially be, you know, trigger warning, being treated very poorly. I'm trying to speak between the lines here for like certain words, right? Sometimes that person could be the empath that's like taking on all of the negative energy from the other person. So there's so much to say, okay? There's so much to say, but but there could be that imbalance that's taking place. But sometimes I notice specifically if it's two people that gain weight in the relationship, like let's say it's both, I look at it as like they're codependent and like they're stagnant in their life and they're not progressing energetically, right? So there's like different types of weight gains and all of these types of things. I'm so glad that that's resonating with you guys. Okay, I'm so glad that that is all resonating with you guys, because I'm speaking on a few different things here that are taking place, but it's this, right? So yes, there's just so much to say, but that's overall what's going on with the sexual energy. So tying it back to the 8th house situation, it's like when you're in an 8th house synastry or a Scorpio dynamic or Plutonian relationship, right? Or even if like a Plutonian comes into your life, okay? These people are bringing things to the surface for you to be looked at, okay? And it's like, if the collective, and this is why you'll see, and it's so interesting because the video that I posted about like the Venus-Uranus aspects, I'm not sure if a lot of people maybe don't have that energy in their chart, or even like Venus and Aquarius. I'm not sure if that's something that's not common, but that's where the collective is going, into the energy of not being attached. Everything is rooted in attachment right now, and it's like connected to the lower chakra things, fear of loss, fear of abandonment, the stability that I was speaking on earlier as well, okay? You know, putting your stability on another person, all these things. And then it's like, I don't know, the way that I always saw relationships was like, you guys come into each other's lives, you're meant to help each other, maybe, you know, transmute something, work on something together, and for however long that takes, and then you move on. It's basically what that is. That's the way that I saw it. Like, that's how I always saw it. I know that's more maybe like Uranus energy or like Aquarius energy, but it's what it is. So then when people don't move on past that point, when the relationship is supposed to be done, they either go into the toxic version, okay, or they get comfortable in just like the toxicity amongst each other. I'm not speaking on extreme toxicity. If you guys are involved in extreme toxic relationships, try to figure out how you can get out of those, okay? So make sure you get out of those situations. When I say toxic, like it's like, you know, those people, like when we talk about like old married couples or people talk about them and you see them kind of like jabbing at each other and like someone's snide and this one's passive aggressive, like that type of toxicity, you know, those like little jabs that people do, those types of things. Like that's kind of the toxicity I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the extreme toxicity where it's like you should get out of this relationship, okay, if you're at that point. But it's this, okay? So it's like at that point in time, it's like people, you know, maybe it's a comfort thing, maybe it's because so much time has passed, whatever the manifestation of it is, but it's like the people kind of energetically get stagnant, okay? They kind of, the energy kind of goes like this, okay? That's just how it feels to me, right? It's like it gets flat, you know, like kind of like even when you sit on like a ball, you know, the ball kind of like flattens out. So that's kind of what happens sometimes in these dynamics as well, so. In a relationship, what is the divine way of sexual expression? I feel like most people don't even know what that is. Most people don't know what that is because most people, so interesting you're asking about this as well, okay? Because I was gonna make a whole video on this and most of it I will save for a whole video. But the divine expression of this, first of all, I was thinking about this today and I was thinking about this, okay? Maybe this is like very, I don't know, like what's the word? I don't know. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Maybe this is out there, but everything that I pick up on and say ends up coming true in the years to come. So I'm saying it and I'm planting the seed. But I feel like when people come out of their lower chakras and they go into their higher chakras, so they're not operated and like ruled by their lower chakra wounds and all these things, okay? I feel like the future of the collective is in some form of asexuality, okay? I know that might be out there. Okay? But it's like sexual energy, nobody really understands how to use sexual energy. So I was thinking about this today. It's so interesting. It's almost like I knew that you guys were going to ask me this. But I was thinking about this today and I was basically saying that in my head that I feel like the advanced version of this is some form of asexuality and then only using sexual energy to either achieve something in the higher dimensions or trying to open the portals into higher dimensions, right? Because people are unconscious and they're not aware. They're opening all of these portals and darker energies are lashing onto them. So that's what I wanted to talk about as well, okay? So here's the thing, when you're watching certain things and you're engaging in this with yourself, okay, I'm speaking between the lines here, right? If you're watching something, you are attaching your energy to that thing, okay? I have a video on this on here as well. I spoke on it. It's called sexual energy siphoning and sexual energy binding on the earth plane, okay? So you are attaching your sexual energy to that thing. Let's say you're watching something, right? You're going to attach your energy to that thing. You don't know what you're watching. You don't know if somebody put magic in that thing. You don't know if those people have dark entities attached to them. You don't know how those people got into that position. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you open the portal in that moment of the height, okay? The height moment, okay? I'm speaking between the lines, so I hope you guys are following, okay? So you're opening the portal then, right? And then at that point in time, the portal is open, the energy is open, and all of this is now gonna latch onto you and boom, your energy goes down, right? Something has attached to you and people don't know how to clear their energy. They just go into the cycle of continuously engaging in this area, or if it is even with another person, right? Sometimes if your body is not going to that heightened point with a specific person, this is another thing that I was thinking about too, you know, it's not attaching, like it's actually a protection thing for the person that it's not attached, because it's not, you're not attaching to that person. I hope that makes sense, because you're not opening the energetic portal to that person, right? Because then at that point in time, you're taking out all their stuff is basically what it is. So just a few things. Absolutely. I'm going to screenshot that. So yes, the divine version is basically being intentional with it. And I don't think, like, I don't fully have an answer for this because I don't think we're there yet as a collective, but it's something to do with opening like portals to maybe higher dimensions or something of that sort. Like, I don't think we're even there yet as a collective. Like, something to do with like accessing higher planes of knowledge, higher planes of information. Because the thing is, once what I was thinking about too, also with this energy, was the heightened point. Okay, I keep talking about this heightened point. I hope you guys are catching my drift for what I'm saying about that, right? When you're at your heightened point, right? And that point in time, that's like a form of an ego death as well, right? If you think about it, right? So at that point, you're fully surrendered and the ego is gone, right? So it's a form of enlightenment, and that at that point in time, right? So it's interesting to see, because it's like if you are in the higher chakras, you're kind of already in an energy of enlightenment, so you're not going into this other energy to try to achieve enlightenment, right? But if you're being intentional with it, you are now going to the higher and higher realms. I really, really hope that makes sense. So that's all that I can say about that. You said, can someone use a sexual energy? Absolutely. So that's where I was going with that. I've spoken on this so much. You guys get the heightened point. Okay, good. Okay. So you said, can someone use a sexual energy? Exactly. So it's so interesting. I've spoken on this so much before. So sometimes I'm like thinking that you guys, like, I'm not like thinking, oh my gosh, these are new people in the chat, right? But yes, so you can use the energy. Okay, so at that point in time, okay, when you're getting to that heightened point, if you're trying to bring something through for yourself, you want to attach your energy to that thing, okay? And grasp it. So let's say you're trying to manifest something. Let's say you're trying to bring something through in your life. What I will say, you guys, do not try to attach your energy to another person, okay? Somebody was telling me once, and they were telling me how they have a picture of someone on their vision board. And I was like, this is such a violation of the other person's free will. And that turns into some form of black magic, right? Because you're trying to violate the other person's free will. You can attach it to, let's say you want a loving relationship, for example, okay? Or like you have like a specific type of person in mind, but don't attach it to someone that you know, because then you're infringing on that person's free will, is basically what it is, okay? Energetically, without realizing, is really, really what that is. But yes, so sexual energy, in conclusion, sexual energy is the most powerful energy. You can use it to manifest, and you want to attach your heightened point to something that you're trying to bring through for yourself, and you don't want to use it in terms of attaching it to another person, okay? Because then you're going to infringe on that person's free will, and that's going to affect you karmically, okay? In terms of even the reincarnation loop and all these things, okay? There's so much to say. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. Yay. I'm so glad that all of that resonated. Okay, cool. Yes, you guys are the real ones. And even the people who watch the videos like this far in terms of the live, well, they're the real ones too. So you guys get the information. Let me just go back up here and see what else were you guys saying in here. Lilith in the 4th house in Aquarius. So Lilith in the 4th house in Aquarius, basically you are a rebel at heart, but sometimes Lilith can be the dark side, right? You can go too much into the rebellion, okay? Sometimes this energy rebels just to rebel. You know what I mean? Where it's like someone says the sky is blue and you're like, no, it's purple, you know, just to be different, right? So that's the shadow of Lilith in Aquarius. The shadow of Lilith in the 4th house can be passive aggressive energy. It can be codependency energy. It can be, you know, people who are looking for attention in a passive aggressive type of way. Like, you know, when someone comes into a room and they're like sighing, like, oh, you know what I mean? And they're not saying what's wrong. That's Lilith in the 4th house, okay? Something like this. So that's the shadow of Lilith. Not saying this is you. Those are some things that can take place. You said, can you use a heightened energy to come to epiphanies like absolutely, absolutely. Like claircognizance, absolutely you can. That's the thing, you want to clear your vessel, right? So people are misusing the energy and they're attaching it to other people. And that's another thing too. If someone's coming at you with their S energy, I'm going to have to use the code words, okay, at this point in time, because I've said it so many times, right? If someone's coming at you with their S energy, right, and they're like really trying to get into your energetic field, you have to ask yourself, you have to be like, why is this person trying to get into my energetic field? They're trying to hook into your energetic field. At that point in time, that person is an energy vampire, right? So that's another thing that people do, because there's the inversion of all of this as well. And that's why, like, I wanted to make this video, but the thing is, some things I can't talk about on here, right? In terms of like how people actually use this energy in the dark sense, okay? Just from my own opinion, from things that I've noticed, okay? And thought about, okay? Can't confirm this. These are just things that I've thought about, right? But sometimes if someone's really trying to come at you and like, it's the whole concept of Adam and Eve and the like apple or whatever, okay? The apple is actually the orgasm, is basically what that is, okay? In my own opinion, is basically what that is. It's the temptation, it's that whole aspect of it, right? So it's like, it's interesting to see because, again, just my own opinion from just reading and thinking about things. Maybe people have different opinions, but it's like, I don't know, just psychically the way that I'm seeing it is like they fell into temptation, so they fell into this matter, right? Into the earth plane is kind of what it is, right? So it's like everything down here is targeted at that, right? With the subliminal messaging, with like the contradicting opinions, that also creates a cognitive dissonance within people as well, right? Let's say religious programming, that creates cognitive dissonance. So that's all taking people's power away from their sacral chakra, right? So it's like you have to then think about and be like, why is there such a focus on the sacral chakra? Like, why is everyone so obsessed with this? So there's something here that we don't know, first of all. Second of all, it's always like people are trying to take your power away in this area, right? Is basically what that is. Sometimes if someone is coming at you like with a lot of that energy, and for whatever reason like they can't contain themselves, they're probably an energy vampire trying to hook into your energetic field, because it's also a form of energy siphoning, right? So it's like you have to figure out how to cut cords with these people. If this is something that you feel like has happened in the past, maybe this person is always on your mind, they're probably hooked into your energetic field, is basically what that is. If you're constantly thinking about someone and you don't want to be thinking about them, and you're like, why does this person keep popping into my head? This person is hooked into your energetic field, okay? And they're siphoning your energies, basically what that is, okay? In one way, shape, or form. You said Apple, there's so much symbolism in modern media, music. Yes, absolutely. You said you've heard that natal Mars and Scorpio can be very intense and sexual energy, but how does natal Saturn conjunct Mars affect that energy? I want to say, okay, here's the thing. I know people, it's so interesting. I was just thinking about this in my head too. Okay. Earlier today, I mean, okay, so Saturn, a lot of the time people look at Saturn as, yes, a depressing planet, or it prolongs things, or it makes things harder. That's true about Saturn, but this earth plane is Saturnian, right? So Saturn might actually give you the sexual discipline, okay, in this particular case. The Mars conjunct Saturn, and Mars being in Scorpio, okay? It'll also give you the discipline in terms of creating and manifesting for yourself. That's why Mars and Scorpio is very good at manifesting, if they're able to hone and harness their own sexual energy and they're not sprinkling it all over the place, right? Which is fine. Everybody goes through these phases. You know what I mean? That's when you're unaware and you don't know what's going on, and it's just like everyone's in the lower chakras. It just is what it is, you know? But it's like when it comes into your awareness, then it's like maybe you have something you want to do, or you have a goal in mind, or something you want to achieve. You want to harness the energy for yourself and see how can you use that energy towards something that you're trying to bring through, is basically what that is, okay? Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm Pluto dominant, and I'm also Saturn dominant, and then I'm Moon dominant. So it's interesting. You said that's strange. It's almost not even a thought, which makes you wonder why those lacking to do this. What are they lacking? He said it's almost not even a thought, which makes you wonder why those would do this. Why those, hold on a second. You said it's almost not even a thought, which makes you wonder why those would do this. What are they lacking? Do what exactly? You said Mars and Scorpio. Yeah, Mars and Scorpio is definitely intense. I have a lot of Mars and Scorpio friends, actually. You said energy vampires. You wonder if that chronic fatigue syndrome seems to be, yeah, it could be this. It could be this, because it could be your energy is hooked into another person, right? Because here's the thing, you guys have to look at it as like an energetic web, right? So the people who operate certain groups, okay, and they do certain things, they do certain rituals, right? And all of their rituals are based in harnessing S energy, right? Is basically what that is. And that's what it comes down to. Allegedly, just my own opinion, okay? Just from what I've observed. So with that being said, it's like if you're unconscious, it's like, let's say someone comes to you and this person has been, okay, so basically what they do, like the group, okay, let me talk about the group first, right? What they do is they intentionally do it so they can all actually operate as like this large group together, right? It gives them power because it's like they're intentionally engaging with each other so they can all connect to each other's energy fields, and they're actually operating as this like large entity, is basically what that is. Just my own opinion, just from what I've observed and like my own thoughts, okay? I can't confirm that. That's just the way that I see it, right? So it's like that group does it intentionally and they do it on purpose so they have more quote unquote power. So they're operating as this whole large entity. So they all engage with each other in this way, right? That's why they all have, and this isn't even something new. Like even if you go into any museum, okay? I remember when I would go into museums, there's all these like people who have no clothes on. I'm speaking between the lines again, okay? And they're all engaging with each other. And that was kind of probably the intention of what they're trying to do. They're trying to operate as this like energetic entity together, right? Because then they have more power because they're all in it. They're all hooked into it together, right? So that's them doing it intentionally. Now, if you're a person and you don't know any of this and you're engaging with all of these random people, you're being energetically scattered all over the place because you're hooked into this person, you're hooked into that person, you're hooked into this person, right? So you want to figure out how you can cut the cords, right? Because that could be part of the reason that you're tired. Absolutely, right? Because the energy could be siphoned on all of these, in all of these different directions, right? Versus the people who know what they're doing with the energy, right? So a lot of information is a lot of information is not shown to us, obviously, right? With reason, because then they get to maintain the power. So you have to figure out what's actually going on here, right? Just by observing is basically what that is, okay? You said a man on Coast to Coast last night talked about something being accorded to other people. We may all be awakening. See, I'm so glad that that resonated. You said, how can we clear those energies that are hooked into your energetic field? You can look up meditations online, okay? Look up meditations online. You can go maybe to an energy healer or someone who can help you cord cut, right? But you can even do, like, you can look up any sort of cord cutting. Type in cord cutting meditation. Although, to be honest, with cord cutting, here's the thing, like these days I'm so weary, okay? When I was younger and like a little bit, like I was aware but not as aware as I am today, I would listen to anything, but these days I'm kind of like, okay, like especially because we're at like the height of the spiritual WAR, I'm kind of like, okay, these things that are being posted online, like are these nefarious things? You have to look in, you have to see if you can tap into the vibration and see, is this something that's legit, basically is what that is, okay? Maybe if you can find someone that you trust, okay, energetically, maybe they have a meditation online and you trust their energy, because you never know what the people are actually putting into the video and what's being channeled through, right? It just is what it is, especially online these days. But yes, back in the day, I would listen to anything. These days, I would just say, be aware is really what that is. Listen to it maybe first before you do the meditation and see if it resonates with you. But yeah, anything to do with cord cutting meditation, you could write it down on a piece of paper and then burn that paper. Obviously, if you do burn it, do it somewhere where it's safe, okay? And inside, or like, you know, not creating a big fire. Maybe you're outside or whatever, or maybe you like flush it down the toilet, these types of things, right? If you are doing that, okay, write it down on a paper, or you can just think it in your mind, right? Just like cord cutting, like visualize and picture it in your head, just like literally cutting cords with all these people. You can do that literally every day before you go to bed. Like, I'm reclaiming my power and I'm cutting cords with all people that I may have interacted with today, right? So you'll know if you're constantly thinking of them, the cord is still there, okay? So you have to figure out how can you cut that cord with this person. It could be a little bit more intense. Let's say like there is an emotional cord there. Well, it could be something like, let's say you need to forgive the person, for example, or something of the sort, right? So sometimes it's not that simple and it's not that easy in terms of cord cutting. But yes, anything to do with like meditation, sometimes even visualizing to see like how thick is the cord, like how much is it connected to the other person, but it's completely doable, right? Anything to do with like reclaiming and calling your power back to you and cleansing, and anything, honestly, here's the thing, okay? And this is why everything is mixed in with two truths and a lie, because a lot of the theological texts are trying to explain these things to people, even in terms of basically purifying their vessels, okay? Purifying their vessels, eating clean, these types of things, right? Because you're raising your vibration, right? When you're raising your vibration, you come out of the vibration of the person that might be hooked into your energetic fields, if that makes sense, okay? So it's this, and then not feeding into it. Because sometimes, let's say someone pops into your head and you're like, let's say someone that you used to date and you're like, oh my gosh, and you're like now nostalgic or whatever. But it's like, keep in mind, anytime we're in the imagination realm or we're in the dreaming realm, the Neptunian realm, right? Like you're thinking about something, you're always going to think about the positive and the good things, right? So you might go into this nostalgia energy, but then it's like, hold on, like remember why you ended things with this person or friend or whoever it is, maybe even job. But yes, that's like something that tends to happen with people. You said, oh, thank you, Esperanza. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's really interesting. I found it interesting because, I mean, I don't have that much Capricorn energy, but you know, when I think about it, the way that they calculate the dominant planets is like they're looking at the root of the energy. So you want to look at like what is rooted in all of these energies is basically what that is. I'm going to have to speak on that another day because that's a little bit more complex. So it's this, and then also what's interesting in my energetic field as well is like also at the same time, I have Uranus aspecting a lot of my personal placements as well, okay? So it's an interesting mix of everything that's taking place. He said, would cord cutting be similar to, I'm not sure what that is, authentic acupuncture? You said, breathe your energy back from a memory, breathe out. Yeah, honestly, whatever works for you, as long as you feel like you're being relieved from that energy and you've cut the cord and you don't think about that person anymore. That's how you'll know the cord is there, is if you're still thinking about this person or they're on your mind. There's still some sort of energetic cord there. And you don't have to like, you don't have to, you know, clear anything with them. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to go talk to them and message them. It doesn't have to be this. It could just be literally you, like, again, writing them a letter and like, in like for yourself, right? You write it out, you release everything, like whatever it is, right? Or you like rectify it in your mind. Anything to like clear the energy basically between you and the other person. Okay, I'm going back up to see what else you guys saying up here that I may have missed. You said Fortune, Jupiter, Mercury, and Sun are in the 8th house ruled by Virgo. And he said 7th ruled by Leo and Chiron. Pluto in the 10th house with Scorpio ruling, and Aquarius rules the 2nd. Oh my gosh, that is so much. I could definitely do a reading for you if you want to know more information on that. You said, Gabrielle, you said you have ascendant squaring the North Node on the analytics. Many calls today. So interesting. Okay, anyways, you were saying Gemini midheaven conjunct the North Node and part of fortune in the 10th house. Also, Mars conjunct Venus in the 10th house. Let me know what you would like to know about that. How to overcome Mercury in Aries, 13 degrees, and partners 12. Okay, I'm back, but maybe I was here the entire time. My screen went black again because the call went to voicemail, so I don't know if it froze. But anyways, I'm back. I wasn't saying anything during that time. I'm just going back up here to answer what I was originally answering, if I can find it. Okay, yes, it was a Mercury in Aries and the partner's 12th house in Aries. Honestly, Diana, depends how evolved the two people are, because it is Mercury in Aries. Like, there could be a lot of explosiveness here, a lot of explosive conversation between the two people, for example, a lot of arguments, you know, because Mercury in Aries can be very blunt. But at the same time, let's say you're not like that. Maybe the person is helping you pull that energy out of you. Do you know what I mean? Because it is in the 12th house in Aries. Like, maybe it's something that's suppressed within the person, and maybe the Mercury in Aries is like learning how to be more, you know, direct or more blunt. So it depends like what energy is the Mercury in Aries in, right? If the energy is maybe too much in the explosive Mercury in Aries, angry, saying everything all the time, arguing, right? That could be something that's being, you know, resolved amongst the two people, right? And maybe if it's in the other energy, it's being pulled out, right, of the person to activate the Mercury in Aries. Okay, it froze. Okay, good. Okay, because the screen went black. So, okay, but I'm back. I wasn't saying anything during that time because I wasn't sure if it was working or if it was not working. But anyways, I'm back. That's all that matters today. You said about your aforementioned confusion, you wonder why people try to suck the S energy out of another, like on purpose. What is the immediate thing that comes to mind as they, okay, because, okay, here's the thing. A lot of the time, those people, okay, what happens with them, those people have very low life force energy, and that could be because their power was taken away from them at an early age, okay? So they have low life force energy, like they could be very fragmented, they could be very unhealed, they could be operating in their lower chakras, like these things, right? So it's like, because they're in their lower three chakras, they're gonna try to like, they're in the lower three chakras, so they're going to try to hook into the higher chakras, right? That's usually how the two dynamics end up panning out, is basically what that is, right? So it's like, because they're stuck in the lower three, they might not be able to hook into those higher spiritual chakras, right? To get into those higher realms, because the thing is, it's all about manifestation at the end of the day, is really, really what that is, right? So it's like those people with low life force energy are going to try to hook into someone with high life force energy so they can use the other person's energy, right, as a battery pack basically for themselves, okay? That's what it comes down to. In my own opinion, from what I've observed, I have to always put that out there, okay? You said, can we talk about having Pluto and Chiron both in the 12th house in Sagittarius, how to heal? Yeah, okay, so Pluto in the 12th house is intense because a lot of your subconscious is being carried over from a previous lifetime, okay? So it's a lot, and you're also healing through that because it's in Chiron, or like Chiron is in there as well, and you have Chiron in the 12th house as well. So basically, so Pluto and Sag is the whole generation, okay? So that is Gen Z, so that's Pluto and Sag. But Pluto in the 12th house, you're clearing through basically anything to do with fears, anything to do with paranoias. A lot of it could be carried over from a past life, okay? Sometimes these people have like a lot of things to clear, right, before they access the higher version of this, which is, let's say, being a natural psychologist, which is, let's say, being someone who is very in tune, intuitive, right? You know, connected to the other side, connected to the people around them as well, right? So it's this, you're gonna have to basically work on that, maybe seeing how can you process this energy within, because the thing is, first you have to explore and be like, okay, is this something from my life that took place, or is this something from a previous lifetime? If you can't find the answer in this lifetime, it's probably from a previous lifetime, okay, with that Pluto in the 12th house. But the thing is, in the divine version, it's someone who is literally like a spiritual, it could be a spiritual teacher, but sometimes Pluto in the 12th in the shadow can be someone who's like a cult leader, okay? I'm not saying this is you, but it could manifest in that direction as well, right? Because Pluto wants power and control. So you probably felt powerless in the area of the 12th house, okay? With Pluto in the 12th house. So what does this mean? You could have felt powerless in the area of your spirituality or of your psychic gifts and abilities, or, you know, let's say of your creativity, right? With that Pluto in the 12th house. And Pluto later tries to regain control, okay? By trying to control that area. So it could be someone who develops, let's say, a new spiritual belief system and then tries to convince everybody around them, right? Kind of like a cult leader. Not saying this is you, but that's the other extreme of this energy. Kind of give you guys the extremes so you can see how it can go in this pendulum swing, right? Out of like the shadow energy, right? Into, well, they're both shadow energies, but like out of the powerless energy into trying to reclaim power, and then you neutralize somewhere in the middle, okay? So Pluto in the 12th house, when it's neutralized and it's in the middle, this is someone who's super spiritual, connected to the other side. You could be super psychic, right? Because the thing is too, you guys, like, okay, I find that everybody is intuitive in one way, shape, or form, but even if you look at, like, let's say people who are intuitive, but in the shadow sense, they're usually looking for people, they can sense people's, let's say, like, vulnerabilities, or they can sense people's, like, shadow traits, like, they can sense where they can hook into people to manipulate those people, right? That's someone who uses their intuition in the shadow, right? Then you have the intuition in the divine version, which is like you're 10 steps ahead for yourself, right? And basically, if you want to advance it, you could be maybe assisting other people if you so choose to. Let's say you do have a heightened intuition as well, right? But it's like, it's interesting to see because the intuitive energy is present, right, amongst all people, and you will see it. And this is why I talk about like narcissist and empath dynamics are interesting to me, because it's like, in a way, they're two sides of the same coin. Sometimes people don't like to hear that. I used to teach that back in the day when I did these like courses in person or whatever, or classes in person. I used to have a class about empaths back in the day when I used to teach yoga also, and then I would do different types of classes. So I would say that, and like people would kind of be like, just like the energy in the room would kind of be like, what's going on here? But the thing is, they share a lot of things in common, the two energies. The narcissist is just someone who is super unhealed, okay? And then the empath also has their wounding because they're trying to heal the narcissist. I mean, we can talk about this all day. And by the way, I'm not a psychologist, always my disclaimer, okay? So with that being said, what tends to happen is like what these two share in common is they're both actually very intuitive. Like the narcissistic person, they might not necessarily be in tune with their own emotions, but they're still able to read people. That's how they're able to manipulate, because they're able to read people to see what could that person's need be that I could hook into, that I could manipulate and exploit, right? That you do it in the shadow energy, right? So anyways, it's this. Okay, good. It's helping you get out of your shell. I kind of felt that it was more of that one energy, okay? You said, yes. No, it's true, Esperanza. Absolutely. Strong 10th house. You're trying to break free from the rat race, ambitious, competitive life, learn to surrender. 12th house stellium helps. Yeah, you know, with that energy, you probably have mastered maybe the material, maybe you've saved some money, maybe you have, you know, investments going for you, and now you can kind of go into the crown chakra, maybe, okay, if you so choose to with that energy, right? So it depends, because it's like, it depends what's going on with your root chakra, because I find that root chakra and crown chakra are connected, right? So you have people who are either super in the root chakra, right? So they're either in survival, or they're trying to make a lot of money, they're trying to climb, so on and so forth. So they're not focused on spirituality, right? Because they're in the root. Sometimes that's done by design. I spoke on that on my previous live as well, right? Keeping people in survival and so on and so forth, so people can't get in tune with their crown chakra and their spirituality, right? Then you have the other side of the energy. Some people go super into their crown and then they don't focus on the root, right? So those people can kind of be like, you know, money is the root of all evil, all these belief systems, right? I don't want to engage, but then like they don't actually have anything going on in the physical, right? Let's say these people don't have anything going on in terms of their financial situation. I spoke on this on my previous live, right? Sometimes you'll see homeless people, right? They're kind of the opposite of this energy, the opposite extreme. I'm kind of giving you guys, again, the extremes so you can understand how the energy works, right? I'm sure if we were to do a study on them, okay, I'm sure we can look at them and see, yes, there's trauma, yes, there's addiction, all these things, but there's also a percentage of them that are kind of like, F the system, I don't want to be part of the system, they don't fit in, so they leave, but they haven't necessarily mastered the root chakra, so they've gone super into the crown chakra, right? And then, yeah, they haven't mastered the root. But then you kind of have a balanced version of this energy where it's like either someone has a balanced root chakra, or maybe they come from money, for example, or maybe they've made money, or maybe they have investments. You'll see these people, right, after they've maybe mastered the material plane, it's balanced, then they're going into the 12th house, right, which is now the creativity, the spirituality, all these types of things. So it's hard to assess because it depends what's going on with your financial situation, right, and where are you on this energetic spectrum. But that's kind of how the crown and the root chakra kind of work together, okay? Same thing with like the 12th house energy as well. I'm so glad that resonated. Thank you for being here. You said empty 12th house in Cancer. So when you have an empty house, you probably mastered that in a previous lifetime, okay? It is in Cancer, so if it's in Cancer, it still means something. So a lot of your shadow traits could be Cancer. A previous lifetime for you could have been maybe a lot of sacrificing for family, okay? With the 12th house in Cancer, it could have even been, let's say, an orphan past life, for example, okay? With the 12th house in Cancer as well. So there could be some abandonment energy that you're carrying within your energetic field connected to a previous lifetime with that 12th house in Cancer. Now you're kind of resolving in this lifetime. You always want to look at everything in a natal chart. There's so much to look at. Oh my gosh, there's so much to look at. And I'm even like, even when I look at my own chart, I'm still finding new pieces of information in there, okay? So there's so much to look at. So when you have 12th house, even though it's empty, right, you have it in Cancer still. So that's your subconscious and that's your unconscious. You unconsciously behave like a Cancer, okay? 12th house Libra, you unconsciously behave like a Libra, okay? You might want to master, let's say, codependencies, for example, fear of being alone, always wanting to be in a relationship, you know, not wanting to do things by yourself, always wanting, you know, a buddy or a best friend. Sometimes that energy settles. Sometimes it can be a people pleaser, for example. That's 12th house in Libra. Basically, relationships are really important to you, but it's a matter of balancing the shadows of Libra because it's like unconscious. The 12th house is your unconscious. So it's like things that you're like playing out without realizing that you're playing out, and usually goes into the shadow of the energy. You said, can I speak to the overall main sense of uncertainty in the community? You need to know that we are moving quickly into the new era. I know they will hold on as long as possible. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I haven't tapped into that in a while. I'm curious to know what you mean by uncertainty in the community. Because I don't keep up, so I don't know what's going on. I kind of really take things day by day. Here's the thing, like, it's hard to say because right now we're actually going through the breakdown of the old systems is basically what that is. So we're literally at the end of the old structures and the old paradigm. But the thing is, we still have to go through the rebuilding phase, right? So that's kind of what we're doing here right now. We're breaking down the old structures and these things, like everybody, all of us, right? And that's basically what's taking place. It's the age of awakening, yes, but it's like we're still in like the breaking down phase, I would say, from my own opinion. You said, can a 12th house sun indicate serious family conflict? Yes, the 12th house sun can be an absence of a father figure early on in life, mental, emotional, or physical absence. It could be this with the 12th house sun. It could be in general, like the past life enemy could come through as the father, okay? Or the dominant masculine role in your life. It could be masculines in your life, could also be past life enemies as well. So it's so interesting you ask that because just earlier today, also something that I was thinking about as well was like, you'll see a lot of the time within family dynamics, there will be 12th house synastry, there will be 8th house synastry, and there will be 4th house synastry. Sometimes even 7th house with family dynamics as well. Like the signs will fall into the 7th house, which is so interesting, right? Because it's like, for example, in terms of family dynamics and 8th house synastry, that's when you'll really see the shadows come to the surface, right? Because you're together all the time, all these things, everyone's triggering each other. It's interesting if you ever heard that quote where it's like, if you think you've healed, like go spend some time with your family to see like how far you've come or whatever. It's this, right? So also on top of that, that's synastry, but also when you have it in your own chart, 12th house, 4th house, and 8th house, usually that's also clearing generational things. And you'll see that these energies travel through family lines, okay? You'll see patterns within family lines energetically, right? There could be a theme. Let's say there is a Pluto theme on one side of the family, maybe the other side of the family is Neptune, right? And then you come through and you're kind of amalgamating these worlds together. For example, let's say there's a theme of 12th house within the family, like you'll see these things travel. The moon signs could travel, for example. These types of patterns is really interesting. But yes, so in terms of like the overall family dynamic, I'd have to look and see at everything that's going on in your chart, but it could be this. So interesting. So many of you guys asked me this, my thoughts on cosmetic surgery from a spiritual standpoint. You said you're on your perfection year in the first house and you're focusing on your identity and your appearance. Here's the thing. This is the way that I see it, okay? If it's something that makes you happy, okay, if it's something that makes you happy and you feel better about yourself and that's putting you in a happier, you know, better mood and a higher vibration, why not, right? Like, it's up to you. Obviously, you have the free will to do what you want. But if we look at certain things that have become, let's say, normalized in the Western world, at least, right? I can only speak on things here, right? It's like, for example, braces. That's the type of cosmetic thing too, right? But it's become so normalized that like everybody does it, right? So it's like, it's a thing. Everybody does it. Now everybody has straight teeth. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's interesting too, because back in the day it didn't exist. And I'm curious to know, like, were teeth that much of an issue? But anyways, that's like a whole separate conversation of its own, right? It kind of feels like back in the day, people kind of had straight teeth already. So I'm curious to know what happened in the timeline that people started having teeth that weren't straight. Anyways, that's maybe even something to do with biology and evolution, whatever, okay? Just throwing that out there. But anyway, so it's this, you know what I mean? So if it makes you feel better and it's something that's constantly bothering you and your energy is constantly focused on it, I mean, it's up to you, right? At the end of the day, like if you're now in a higher vibration because you feel good, like why not? You know what I mean? So interesting. You said you live with your family. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, Cece. I think that's the thing for everybody. Like, again, it's like anyone who is in close proximity and you're spending 24/7 together, the shadows are going to come to the surface is basically what that is, right? And sometimes there's a level of comfort there. That's why sometimes the way that I see it is like, obviously depends on the situation. You have the extreme toxic, you know, situations that obviously you'd want to leave if it is an extreme toxic situation. But it's like, if it's something that can be worked on, sometimes it's easier to work on these issues with the root of the problem, okay? Or like the root people versus going out there and repeating these patterns with new people, right? And then having to try to work on it with those. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's easier to just go back to the root, resolve it with those people, clear it with them so it doesn't perpetuate throughout your other relationships and situations. Oh my God, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Yay. That is my intention with these talks. I'm glad that you guys enjoy them. You said, what are some signs it's someone's last incarnation on Earth? That's a very interesting question, because back in the day, I used to think, and I mean, potentially this could still be true, okay? I used to think that 12 house energy would be a sign, okay, for you, that it would be your last incarnation, right? But these days, the way that I see it is we still do have free will, right? So I'm kind of like, you know, I think you can decide for it to be your last lifetime. If you have 12 house, it might be easier because you have more spiritual knowledge and you understand the metaphysical, right? Versus maybe someone who doesn't understand the metaphysical. So yes, I do believe that you can pick for it to be your last lifetime. I had that video that I posted recently. If you are new here, it's called How to Not Reincarnate Again, based from my own opinion. I always got to put that out there, okay? So you guys can take what resonates, leave behind what does not. But it's like, I do believe now at this point in time, okay? And again, I'm also always like evolving my train of thought on things too, right? But at this point in time, okay, I do believe that you can decide, because we do have free will, that you can decide for it to be your last lifetime. But if you do make that decision, you have to be prepared to clear karmic situations, is basically what that is. Everything in the lower chakra wounds, okay? All these things. Because another thing that I've just thought about in the past, again, I can't confirm this, just something that I thought about by looking at energies in a chart, for example, I've come to another thought, for example, that like when people have a lot of 12 house energy in their chart, the way that I see it sometimes is like you keep kind of wanting it to be your last lifetime, but you also accumulate more karma. So that's kind of like the tricks of the trade down here. It's like you want to come down here and you want to clear whatever needs to be cleared, but you also don't want to get involved or engaged in new karmic webs. And that's why it's such a struggle, right? So sometimes when I see a lot of 12 house in a chart, right, to me, the way that I see it is like this person keeps coming back down trying to complete something, but they accumulate more karma, right? So that's just how I see it. Again, I can't confirm that. So I do think that you can, I do think that you can decide. Good night. You said each tooth has spiritual meaning and refers to something. Oh, that's so interesting. Well, I do know a few things. Like I know if you clench your jaw, for example, it could be anger issues. If you grind your teeth, it could also be repressed anger as well. So I do know that about teeth. And then also if you have a lot of issues with your teeth, from what I've learned back in the day, like if you have, let's say, constant cavities and these types of things, that could also be repressed emotions. Like that's what I do know about teeth. But I'm curious to know why these days people's teeth like aren't straight. Do you know what I mean? Like back in the day, people didn't maybe wear braces as much, but they still had straight teeth, for example. So it has probably something to do with, I don't know, is it the size of the teeth now is bigger? Like what is it? You know, I'm just kind of throwing ideas out there. Yeah, you said reincarnated doesn't sound like a fun ride. What chakra refers to the teeth? Oh, that's a good question. It would be connected probably to your throat chakra. I mean, if we look at it from a physical level, the teeth. But I'd have to look into that. That's a really, really good question. Which chakra is connected to the teeth? Because if it is connected to anger and like the repressed emotions, that could also be your root chakra as well. So I'd have to look into that. Or maybe you can Google it and type in and see like bones or teeth, like what chakra is it connected to? You said you think it has something to do with the jaw. Yeah, there's something to do with that. Yes, that's another thing too. Actually, that's so interesting you say that. I did have a video pop up on my feed about the jaw structure and something to do with, okay, this is interesting. This is so interesting actually, because I had a video pop up on my feed and they were basically saying because we don't bite into food, like how we used to back in the day, like we don't chew as much as we used to, like the jaws going like further back, something like that. Okay, this was like a random video that popped up on my feed, so I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but it's interesting because that could also have something to do with it. That's so interesting you said that. How do you release anger? I mean, you go scream in a forest maybe. I'm just scream into a forest, scream into a pillow, go to the gym, take up boxing. Hard to say, depends what it is, right? Okay, here's the thing, okay? It's a few things, because sometimes when someone has long-standing grief, the grief turns into anger, okay, within the body as well. So sometimes if someone has a lot of anger, it's like a lot of unprocessed grief as well, which is actually connected to the heart chakra too. So it depends, like what kind of anger is it? Where is it rooting from? Where is it stemming from, right? But honestly, the best way to process these things is to actually try to like feel the emotion, which could be challenging, right? So sometimes writing it down, because the thing is the emotion, when you guys have a suppressed emotion within your body, it only comes to the surface when it feels safe to do so, right? So like, let's say you are now finally in a safe environment, right? Like, let's say you grew up in an environment that was unstable and maybe you didn't have stability within the home. You were in survival mode, for example, right? So you didn't have time or the space to process your emotions during that period of time. Let's say now later on in life, you have finally achieved stability and you live in like a stable type of situation, right? Whether it's on your own, whether it's a partner, doesn't matter, right? You are now maybe in the environment where the emotion can now come up, right? So that's the thing. That's why sometimes you'll have things come up like later on in life. You'll be like, why am I thinking about this? Why am I raging about this now? But it's like now the emotion feels safe to come to the surface is basically what that is. So you want to feel the emotion. You want to see what is it. You want to see what is it rooting. So that's the whole process. You have to basically go through the whole process of grief. And then the final step, and probably the hardest one, is forgiveness, okay? I think that's the hardest one for absolutely everybody, okay? And then also other things that you can do. Other things that you can do also when you have, you know, these repressed emotions, you can write it down, you can journal about it. Like when you start writing, sometimes other things come to the surface, right? Spending time on your own, spending time in your own energy, these types of things, okay? Oh my gosh, asparagus, I'm so glad that that basically came through today for you. You realized today that when you argued with a family member, your heart chakra was feeling super unbalanced and stressed. Yeah, exactly. So figuring out what is the root of that and how can you process and purge that emotion is basically what that is. You said, can you connect to your past life? Absolutely, you can. You can try doing it through meditations. You can, it depends from person to person. Like for me, I kind of have, like I call it memory by association. So I remember things when I'm doing something that reminds me of that memory, okay? So for example, let's say I'm at the grocery store and I happen to, I don't know, pick up, let's say an orange, whatever, right? And it could be the motion of me picking that thing up. I just have like a flashback and I'm like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of this past life. Like it's like a moment type of thing. Like that's kind of how I remember. Back in the day, I used to listen to meditations. It's kind of like, okay, back in the day, what I would find again on YouTube, but again, you have to use your discernment because I don't know what's out there in the YouTube streets these days. Like, is it trustworthy or not? But back in the day, okay, before we kind of came online, like as like the full blown like age of information right now, right? Back in the day, I would type in past life like regression in terms of like the meditation. So like even when you go for a past life regression, they're kind of talking, like they're basically putting you into a meditative state. Is basically what that is. They're like guiding you into the regression, right? So if you find those types of regressions on YouTube, right, you can kind of just like do it yourself and see what comes up for you and these types of things. So it could be this. You said, do I think dreams are real in another dimension? It's hard to say with dreams because dreams can be a few things, okay? Dreams can sometimes be you processing things. Sometimes it's you resolving things with people that you can't resolve, you know, things within this physical realm. It could be this. Sometimes it's predictive, okay, with dreams. Sometimes, yes, you are going into a different dimension. So you're going to be the only one that knows what's actually happening here. Because I've heard some people who lucid dream. I have seen some videos where people are talking about lucid dreams. I've seen some wild videos on the lucid dreaming, you all. Like, it's been really interesting. And then there's the other types of dreams that some people talk about, which are like the back doors or like the back rooms or whatever, which is interesting to me because it's almost like those people are going into a different dimension, which is really interesting to me because those dreams feel very, like when I'm like watching the videos and like listening to them talk about it, like those to me feel very AI simulated. So I'm not sure how they end up in those realms when they're dreaming. And then there's also the other people. Have you guys ever heard about Mall World or whatever? That was fascinating to me. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me tell you guys the story. This was so fascinating. So I had this friend, right? And during that period of time, and it's just so fascinating. Again, you know, maybe because the phones are starting to pick up on our thoughts and our consciousness these days, maybe because I was hanging out with this friend, like it was a group of friends, but like this one particular friend in the group of friends, maybe because we were always like doing things together, all of us, right? Maybe my phone picked up on this person's consciousness because then I discovered Mall World, right? And okay, this friend never spoke about this before, or whatever. We would talk about spiritual things or whatever, but the friend hadn't made this connection yet. So basically I discovered Mall World and I never had any of those dreams, but I thought it was so fascinating. I was reading about it on Reddit. I was listening to people's videos about Mall World and there's this whole community. Have you guys heard about it? It's so fascinating. This whole community, and some people from the 90s will be going into this Mall World place, okay, where they are basically like building almost this other world, and like they all have like similar, it's so interesting, it's so trippy too at the same time because they all have similar dreams. And then like some people in those chat rooms would like, you know, make pictures or like talk about like the descriptions of the places, right? So then at the same time, the friend was telling us about these certain dreams that she would have or whatever, right? So it was really interesting because the connection hadn't been made yet. And then I had discovered this. And one time, me and this friend, we were on the bus and we were just like talking, and I think I was like talking about Mall World or whatever, and my friend went on the Reddit, and my friend saw the pictures, and my friend was like, oh my gosh, this is the exact thing that I've been dreaming about. So my friend had been going to this Mall World place, and I was like, how long have you been dreaming this? And basically since the friend was young, right? So it's really interesting to see, because it's like some parts of the collective, it depends, it's a consciousness thing, because some people are clearly hooked into these certain types of different realities that are taking place, so there is that. Then some people have like the apocalyptic dreams, okay? And some people have like the wild dreams with like dinosaurs and these types of things. So it depends. I think it depends from person to person, but it's always fascinating to me. Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm so glad that I made you laugh. You said, and only yourself. Literally, that's only what it's actually all about. Yeah, exactly. It's only about yourself. You said, funny thing is, exactly, you want to forgive yourself. It's forgiving yourself for being in that situation. And another thing that I've recently been thinking about in terms of forgiveness and the self, I feel like a lot of the forgiveness of the self is also connected to not knowing in terms of your intuition. That's another thing that I've been thinking about recently, because again, kind of tying it back to what I was saying in the early part of this video, is like, again, people have been stripped of their intuition, right? Society is more mind-based, logic-based, so people don't know how to be in tune with their intuition. So I find that if people were in tune with their intuition, they would avoid a lot of situations, right? Because they would learn to listen to their feeling, right? Let's say someone is giving you anxiety, like I've spoken about this on my lives previously, right? I question attachment styles in my own opinion, okay? That's just my own opinion, right? But the thing is, I question attachment styles because sometimes, you know, if they talk about anxious, or like, let's say someone's giving you anxiety, maybe it's putting you into avoidance. And I think to myself, and I'm like, maybe you're getting anxiety from that person because you're not meant to engage with them. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it is your whole nervous system being like, do not engage with this person, right? So anyways, that would be a whole conversation of its own for a different day. So it's like, sometimes, you know, again, people learn to override sometimes their natural instincts in situations. And unfortunately, that's just like the way that the society has been up until this point in time. So I think part of the forgiveness is also rooted in not knowing in terms of your intuition, or not knowing how to listen to it, or not knowing better in a situation, or being naive, like whatever it is, right? So I think that's also what forgiveness is also rooted in. That's good. I'm glad. Concern, I know, oh my gosh, I can't, like if I go into that, I was already going into my crown chakra talking about Mall World, so I'm not gonna go there right now, but you guys can look it up on Reddit if you guys are interested in learning more about that. I thought it was so fascinating. I spent so much time reading about it once. This was maybe 2 years ago now. But yes, I spent so much time reading about it, and I was just so fascinated that so many people were dreaming about it, because to me, it seemed like people, just based off of what I was reading, okay, to me, it seemed like people's consciousness in the dream state were going into this other world that looked like this one, right? But it was like in a different level or a different dimension. And it seemed to me like they were building this place, right? So there's something here too, right? Where it's like your consciousness is going somewhere else, but where is it going? Do you know what I mean? So yes, definitely. Oh, do you have the dreams about Mall World? Oh my gosh, that would be so fascinating. Yeah, definitely check it out, because there's like a whole community. And I found the thing that I found the most interesting about it was the fact that people were saying they were having these dreams from the 90s. And to me also, the Mall World energy kind of feels very much like a simulation. That's why I try not to tap into it, because I'm going super into my crown chakra as I tap into it. Like it's very like AI energy, like very much video game energy, even like the back rooms as well. You guys are so funny in the chat. Oh my gosh, you guys are so hilarious. Okay, you said exactly, the inner voice is always right. It is literally always on point. It's literally always on point. You have to learn to listen to it, whether it's the voice, whether it's the feeling, whether it is whatever it is, okay? And sometimes it can be challenging in a moment, because something can seem like very enticing, right? And that's the whole concept also with like, I guess the whole like every rose has its thorn or whatever it is. Something can seem very enticing or alluring, and you're like, okay, this seems like the perfect situation, but something could be off there. Something literally could be off there. And like not once in my life have I regretted not listening to my intuition. I have turned down certain like situations, like whatever it was, right? So yes, definitely learn to listen to your intuition. It's gonna help you a lot in the long run, which is awesome. Like we all learn from each other, and it's gonna help the future generations. That's why they're gonna be more advanced spiritually, because they're not gonna have to deal with all of this transmutation of energy, okay? You said, unfortunately, some people just cannot cut people off if they aren't legal adults and have to stay with those toxic people. How should young people learn to find peace? Okay. That's a really good question. Yes, that is very true. If you are in a situation and you are, let's say, living with a person. Honestly, when it comes to narcissistic dynamics, again, I am not a psychologist, and I'm sure you can find more information online because there's so many people talking about this. But with like, let's say you are engaging with these people and, you know, you can't, you know, do anything, like again, like you mentioned, let's say you're underage or whatever, you know, not engaging with them, not giving them supply is the biggest thing, right? So sometimes they're looking for an argument, they're looking for a scapegoat, they're looking for someone to explode at, right? Trying to keep the peace. And you'll have to learn manipulation in this way, okay? Is basically what that is, unfortunately. Like you might have to pretend to have everything to be nice and fine and dandy, right? To not give them that supply, right? You might have to learn to read them, to see what are their like sugars or whatever, to like learn to manipulate them. Do you know what I mean? Like making everything seem like it's good and like not feeding into them. Because a lot of the time with narcs, like what happens with them is like sometimes they're looking to start an argument, or they're looking for supply, or they're bored, or they're critical, whatever it is, right? Something of the sort, right? So not feeding into that, right? Let's say they're trying to start something with you, you're just like, okay, you go about your way, right? Like learning that like your own peace is the most important. And it's interesting because I spoke on this way back in one of my earlier lives. Something that I used to do back in the day in terms of energetic manipulation is like, let's say you're in an argument with someone, just because I can pick up on someone's energy when it's being directed toward me. Like let's say they're like fuming in their corner, they're like so angry or whatever, right? So, and this is just like anybody, right? It doesn't have to be like that type of person, it can literally be anybody. So what I learned through time is to manipulate the energy in the sense where it's like I would make that person think that everything is fine and everything is okay, so they stop sending me the energy. Do you know what I mean? So it's like sometimes people have too much pride to, you know, like let's say give in to an argument, or, you know, somehow make the other person think that everything is fine, right? But sometimes to protect your own energetic field and to protect yourself from them sending you negative energy, you have to manipulate, is basically what that is, to kind of make them think everything is fine. And then it's like you're actually winning in the end, right? Because they're not sending you the energy anymore, because like they're not fuming anymore, right? And sometimes with those people, it's like talking to a wall anyways, right? It's basically what that is. Sometimes you get nowhere with certain individuals, so it's just like, yeah, whatever, you're right kind of thing, you know? Esperanza. Oh my gosh, you guys are so funny. Do I have a podcast? No, I used to have a podcast back in the day. I had 7 episodes. It was right before CV in 2020, and then I just stopped because I got kind of like, I don't know, I don't like using the term, like I just didn't feel like doing it anymore. I guess I can just put it that way. Okay. I just didn't feel like doing it anymore. It just was easier to do this. So this is my podcast, basically. But yeah, I did have a podcast. I would talk about different spiritual concepts with a lot of different people. And yes, and it was interesting because it was only 7 episodes, and then I realized that after I did the 7 episodes that I was kind of like doing like a chakra for each episode. That's kind of the way that I came to the conclusion. I was like, okay, in a way, that wasn't the intention originally, to have each episode be a chakra, but in the end I was kind of like, oh my gosh, it's so weird that it aligned this way, because it's kind of like every episode turned out to kind of be relating to a certain chakra, so it was cool. But yeah, I had a naturopath on there, I had a Reiki practitioner on there, I had an essential oil person on there. What else did I have? A bunch of different people. I had like a belly dancer, like so many different types of people, but we were all somehow tying it all back to spirituality, is basically what that was. So that was back in the day. Exactly. Exactly, Esperanza. Exactly. You said you had dreams where your attitude and personality is so different towards people and more. Yes, that's the thing. So sometimes you're resolving things with people in the astral plane while you're sleeping, right? So sometimes there's things that you can't say to people in the physical, right? And then you'll see that you're, you know, cussing them out in your dreams. It's basically what that is, right? So those are like, that's still a part of you that's playing that part out, right? But it's happening in the astral realm, right? In this energy of like a container, right? Is basically what that is. But usually like that's maybe something suppressed that you have, like, you know, something suppressed that you're feeling toward them or whatever it is kind of being played out in the astral realm. What else did you guys say up here? Oh my gosh, you said you have mall dreams as well. Check it out, okay? Check it out on Reddit. It's called Mall World. Maybe next time if you guys come back to the chat, you guys can let me know if you guys discovered if it's the same mall world that I was telling you guys about. You said your entire body works in symphony together to signal. Exactly, but most people, unfortunately, like their parasympathetic system, and again, I'm not a medical practitioner. I always have to give these, disclaimers because you never know, right? But regardless, okay, your whole nervous system, like for everybody, especially if you're living in the Western world, is on overdrive, right? So people can't even be in tune with themselves because like people are in survival mode, okay? Not to mention the other countries where they're literally in survival mode, you know what I mean? So it's this. So that's all done by design, right? Even like forcing people to work 5 days a week and then you don't even get to rest on the 2 days that you have off, right? You don't get enough time to calm down is basically what that is. It's like you do this thing, everything that you couldn't do during the week, and then you're still in this overdrive type of energy, basically, right? So that's another reason why people they're not able to be in tune with their intuition. That's connecting back to that root chakra that I was telling you guys about earlier, right? So when people are in the root, they're in survival, maybe routine, whatever it is, right? You can't go into the crown, right? So it's interesting to see how all of these work together. You said you have super vivid dreams. Yeah, check it out. Let me know. Okay, let me know, you guys. I can't, I forgot about it completely, okay? The mall world. Yes, this was a few years ago when, I don't even know, it was probably TikTok or something. I stumbled upon it and then I went to Reddit to learn more about it. You said serious consequences for not following your intuition and first impressions. Exactly. But if you don't follow your intuition, it just exactly reinforces how important it is to, exactly. And that's how you learn, is really what it is. At the end of the day, we're all learning down here is basically what that is, okay? You said very consistent, continuous dreams to pick up where they left off. That's so interesting. I'm always so fascinated when people have these continuous dreams. I'm also fascinated by people who have like the out of worldly types of dreams, because my personal dreams are very banal, like they're very day-to-day types of things is basically what that is. So when people are telling me about like there's a spaceship and then King Kong came and then Spider-Man came and then I flew on a pterodactyl, like that stuff is amazing to me because I'm just like, I've never had a dream like that. Maybe now that I mention it I will, but I don't dream of things like that. So it's always interesting to me like what's going on, you know? You said it's so interesting that the narcissists don't even know what they are doing. They don't realize they need their supply from you. Yeah, I have a video on here. Actually, I'm not sure, Asparagus, if you're still in the room. But I have a video on here where I talked about the metaphysical like perspective on narcissism. Just my own opinion, I always gotta say that, okay? But yes, it's usually people who are fragmented and they have entities operating through them. And these entities unfortunately learn how to hook into your soft spot and your wounds. So that's why I tell you guys a lot of the time, you want to master your wounds is basically what that is, okay? You wanna master the wounds, you wanna master the soft spots so these people can't hook into them is basically what that is, right? Let's say you're someone who, you know, gets flattered very easily, right? Like let's say someone says, oh, you know, good job on doing this. Like, let's say it's like a Leo energy type of person, right? If the narc hooks into that energy, they'll know how to keep you around because all they have to do is sprinkle you with attention, right? So it's like, it's that type of manipulation that you want to try to not get involved in, right? Because then the time goes by and I feel like high level narcs, in my opinion, like narcissists, in my own opinion, they become like very good mirrors, right? So they hook into high level, well, I can't say it's high level empaths, but empaths, right? They are very good at mirroring back to you, your own energy, right? So even if you think you've fallen in love with this person, you've actually fallen in love with yourself through this person because they're usually empty vessels, okay? The narcissists, because they're operating out of the lower 3 chakras, okay? So it's this, they're usually fragmented, usually something traumatic took place and you can't really do much because they have to basically heal themselves is basically what that is, okay? But yeah, they hook into your wound. So let's say you have an abandonment wound, that's another way that they can control you. Anything to do with the lower chakra wounds, for example, okay? You've had dreams where your attitude, okay, we talked about that one already. It is that, Esperanza. It is because I am in my crown chakra all day long. Sometimes I don't dream things because sometimes for me and dreams, like sometimes if I dream something, it'll throw me off for the day. So I think that's just a form of protection for me to not be overly active in the astral in the nighttime because I'm busy during the day doing so many different things. So I can't, there's no point in me being thrown off during the day being like, what was that dream? What did that mean? You know, like going into that type of energy. So it's this, right? And I noticed too, I don't know about you guys, but like for me, I dream more when I'm like, let's say more tired or like I'm not as stressed or I'm not as busy. Do you know what I mean? When there's more of like a resting type of energy, I go actually into a deeper sleep and then I actually dream at that point in time. A lot of my dreams, actually what I've noticed with them are very psychic. Like I've actually had like precognition even when I was young. That's actually how I discovered that I was psychic, was because my grandma would ask me about my dreams. So then I would tell her and then we noticed that certain things that I would tell her would actually come true is basically what that is. So things come through for me in dreams as well, about people, about situations, about circumstances as well, like in a psychic way as well. But yeah, it's this basically. So during the day, I spend pretty much the entire day in my crown chakra, right? It's just what I do. So in the nighttime, I feel like I just rest. Actually, most of the time, I do still sometimes dream. It's not like I don't fully dream, but I don't dream for long periods of time. And sometimes I don't remember. Like sometimes I wake up and I'm like, okay, remember that dream. But then I get so like, you know, when you're like in that half sleep, half awake state, like in the middle of the night, and you think you're going to remember it. And then I knock out again. And then I wake up in the morning. I was like, what was that dream again? And that was also how I discovered, like, that was also how I had, oh, you fly in your dreams. That's so cool. You said your personal, exactly. Personal power is your intuition. That's exactly what it is. That's why I have so many videos on here. If you're interested in learning about how to get in tune with your intuition, I know some of the videos I talk about your psychic gifts and abilities. I do believe everyone has an intuition of some sort. So I always wonder when I hear things in, you know, the news or whatever about people, and I always wonder, and I'm like, what was their intuition telling them that day? Like, was anything going off? Were they picking up on anything? Like, I'm always curious to know about those individuals. You're welcome. You said, isn't belly dance breath work? Oh, that's a really good question. Maybe you can connect it to breath work. Yoga definitely is breath work for sure. You go into a deeper sleep too, and you dream deeper. You've had apocalyptic dreams, and you haven't watched apocalyptic or scary movies lately. Yeah, I can't watch anything scary. Oh my gosh, you guys, okay. Okay, so when I was a kid, I had like a TV in my room, and it was like those older day TVs, right? Like the bigger boxy ones, okay? And like I also had like you know, the VHS like tape thing or whatever in my room, right? This is okay. I can't say that I haven't watched full-blown horror. I've watched like thriller movies or like true crime types of things, but only during the day if I was curious and I got sucked into that vortex. I try not to, but if I start, I get really interested in it and I want to know what happens. But anyway, so when I was a kid, okay, I can't remember how old I was, maybe, I don't know, but I was a kid. And anyways, so I watched The Ring. Have you guys heard of that movie, The Ring? And Tabitha, and she like comes out of a TV. You guys, I cried so much to my parents. I was so scared. I couldn't sleep. I thought she was gonna come out of the TV in my room. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm done. After that, like I did not watch horror movies. Like I can't do anything that is like horror in that way. In retrospect now, maybe the movie wasn't that bad, but I was like a kid and I had the TV in my room. I literally thought she was gonna pop out of the TV. Like I was like, I can't deal with this. You said, yes, when I said 2020 vision side of the year, you had the same thought too. Oh my God, precognition is amazing. You wonder so many times why we have this. Sometimes, okay, here's the thing. I have a few theories actually. So sometimes I think it's a few things because I go in and out of things. I go in and out of, you know, thinking that this is the only timeline. Okay, so this is going to be kind of trippy, okay? I go in and out of thinking this is the only timeline that we're in. So sometimes I think and I'm like, this is the only thing that ever happened. And then I go out of it and I'm like, actually, no, there was a past, right? That led up to this. But sometimes I'm like, no, this is the only time that exists. Okay, it's kind of trippy. It's like multidimensional, right? So sometimes I think to myself, even in terms of psychics and psychic visions and these types of things, because they put so much like predictive programming in the TV or just like shows or even TV shows, like all these things, sometimes I wonder and I'm like, are people psychic or are they picking up on, like, are they remembering things that they've seen in these shows, but it's coming through as like a vision in a different sense because it's like kind of repeating itself? Yeah, it's a little bit more crown chakra, but that's what I wonder sometimes with psychic predictions as well. I'm like, because we all consumed so much, right, up until this point of like media and TV and all these things. So sometimes I wonder, I'm like, is it just something that people have seen without realizing that they've seen it before, and like they think they're getting a psychic prediction, and it's this. Then I have the other aspect when I go into this, when I go super into my crown, and then I think to myself, and I'm like, maybe we've all already lived this before, so we're remembering things already, like maybe somewhere already in our memory. So anyways, that's something that can take place. Exactly. Yeah, I can't watch horror. Absolutely. No, I don't watch horror. Recently, I've tried to watch Black Mirror because I always want to see what they have planned. Allegedly, okay? So last year, I think 2023, okay? Early 2023. Here's the thing, like things like Black Mirror, because I want to see what do they have planned, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to watch this during the day, and then I'm going to go on a walk or whatever to like detox the energy, right? And the nighttime is an absolute no, okay? But I don't know why that day, it was like the evening and I was watching it, and okay, this is how you know that these things have negative energy coming out of them, and it's so interesting. I was telling you guys this in my head recently, but I was watching Black Mirror, and I didn't even finish watching that episode, okay? So that was one of the episodes that I didn't finish, and that was the most recent Black Mirror. But I was watching it and something was going on and I'm like trying to not watch it because I'm like, you know, covering the screen and I'm like, okay, maybe it'll like fast forward so we can get to the next part because I'm curious, right? I'm like, okay, like what, you know, is planned kind of thing, right? Anyways, when I was watching that episode, the like, what are they called? The blinds in my room, they just like crashed down, like they fell down. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, take out the frankincense, take out like all of the things. I'm like, we need to cleanse this entire place. I shut that stuff off like so fast. You said Eastern medicine dreams are premonitions of future events, communication with the deceased or long distance, close friends and relatives, illusions, peril of daily interactions, or disease. Thank you for confirming. I love that. Subliminal, yeah, right? You said that happened to you with, oh my gosh, Blair Witch Project. Stop. I watched Blair Witch Project with my friends too, except I think because I watched it with my friends, we made so much fun of it. Like at that point in time, like we would always bring it up like as like a inside joke, like amongst each other. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't get people who just like willingly watch horror movies. Like, yeah. Anyways, everyone can be their own person. Okay, guys, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you so much for the chats, for the conversations, for all of the messages in here. Let me just see what you said here. You said, what do I think about South Park knowing more of what's going on? You haven't seen. Okay, yeah, Black Mirror, stop telling us stories. No, I'm not. I'm not even telling you what's going on in these movies. Don't worry. I'm just telling you the after effect of them. Yeah, all these things have bad energy. Yes, so all these things, like, in my own opinion, they are planting the seeds, right? It's predictive programming, allegedly, just my own opinion, okay? That's basically what it is. So things are basically like pre-planned, right? And they put it in because, okay, the whole reason they do that is because when you watch it and you're unconscious, first of all, you're unconsciously giving consent for that thing to take place, but also at the same time, your energy, like our visualization energy as humans is so strong, right? So when you're watching it, you're actually making that thing happen, right? So this is why you need to be careful, because what I've noticed also with like the algorithms these days, okay, because somehow, I think it's because I saw a video of this, so again, I can't confirm this, I don't know if this is true, but I saw a video where like through the little camera thing, like it's always analyzing our face and how we're reacting to things. So within the whole like AI verse or whatever, they have like another model of us already, so we can actually predict what we're going to think next, right? So sometimes when I'm wondering something, like recently, right, I've been thinking and I'm like, okay, hopefully like the answer to this just pops up on my feed, right? Or like, you know, with whatever I want to know about this, like hopefully I get the answer on my feed. But the thing is, the struggle, and this is where it's kind of getting, I think, dangerous also, is because people have wounds and they have certain things that they haven't processed, their feeds are picking up on that trigger and it's feeding them that type of content, okay? This is something that I've noticed, right? So people are like, right now, there's like also like a lot of anger maybe also in the collective, because it's like the algorithms are picking up on, let's say, something that someone has suppressed or repressed or anger or whatever, and it's like feeding into that through all these videos, right? But at the same time, it's a purge because you have to feel the feelings to purge that thing out. So it's all of this. Okay, right? We're super in the crown chakra right now, okay? But that's something that I've noticed with these things as well. So it's like back in the day, they used to kind of use, let's say, like the movies and whatever to like create things and create like outcomes. But these days I find that it's getting more intense because it's like our consciousness is like merging into the actual AI or whatever. So it's like now it's starting to feed you content about things that, again, you know, you might have a soft spot about, or you might get upset over, or you might get angry over, and it's like feeding that for people, right? So it's kind of like another type of consciousness takeover. So you got to be careful with what you're consuming. Exactly, you can tell when the feed changes. Okay, I'm officially going to leave. Thank you guys for being here, for your chats, your comments, your likes, your shares, your subscribes. Thank you for being a part of the channel. If I didn't get to your question this time, I'll get to your question next time. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day.